right there. All right, who else do we got? Awesome Andy Svensson. Uncle Dale and his Power Stash are here. Remember, if you're in Austin, Texas, and you see Uncle Dale, rub his Power Stash. You will get good luck for the entire month of November. Got to find him, though. He's hard to find. Jeremy Jones, Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio, a channel you need to subscribe to. Wham Bam Ham, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. I'm losing my voice already. Sorry, guys. We're going to fight that all night. Gorgeous Jenny, what's happening? Thank you for joining us. And who else we got here? Sherry Knight, thank you for coming on in. Oh, there's Chad Smith, everyone. The Chad Smith. Remember, you can get your Merle swag and your Chad Smith swag by going to our store on our website, spacedoutradio.com. And Phil Minervino, good to see you. We're running out of time here. Who else is here? Oh, Mondex says, I am Merle. Project Blue Book, gorgeous Marie, how are you? Thanks for coming on in. And Paradox Fossils, good to see you. We're running out of time here. Who else we got here? Scrolling. Marky Spender, little Marky Spender right there. CG, nice to see you. And we're going to have to shut it down there. Remember, the Super Chat is a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis here. Get your horns up. Time to rock and roll. Here's Bumblefoot. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out the Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. We got swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Ah, yes, the man is back. Merle from the Paranormal Road Trippers, based out of Vancouver, British Columbia, has returned for another edition of Ghosts of the Great White North. And tonight, Elements of a Haunting. You may recognize these two handsome dudes from their days on Ghost Hunters. Well, they're now doing their own thing. Why? Because they can do it better. They can do it better. I'm telling you right now they can. Mustafa Gatollari and Brandon Alvis are here to join us as well. Merle, how you been doing, buddy?
Been doing well, Dave. How have you been doing?
You know what? I feel great, except for forehead, not even forehead, like sinuses to the chest. Otherwise, I feel good. But I'm a little nervous. Got to go for the old physical tomorrow.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, exactly. You know what happens.
Glove clapping physical?
Yeah, probably. My doctor...
2 fingers.
I know my doctor very well, and he is just a brilliant, brilliant man who came here from Africa a few years ago. And just a gorgeous family, great man. And he was in my office a few weeks ago. And I was telling him that I got booked for a physical, and he's like, oh, yeah? He goes, I said, Doc, you're going to get me, aren't you? And he started laughing. And I said, well, Doc, I'm going to tell you right now, you better call me some dirty names, tease me a little bit, just so that way I could get excited. Because otherwise, if you got to do that, you ain't getting in. You just ain't getting in. It was a good laugh, but I didn't think he was very, how can I put it?
Laugh.
No, it was more like I've heard that before. Now shut up and get ready. But tomorrow's a big day. I know I'm going to get my ass handed to me,
Probed.
Well, in more ways than one. So that's pretty much it. But otherwise, you know what? It's about ghosts tonight. It's about paranormal. It's about hauntings because we are close to Halloween. And I'm so glad we got our two good friends here, Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gatollari, who is hanging out in the streets of New Jersey tonight, looking for UFOs and swamp gas, well, trying to find some ghosts of Frank Sinatra and whoever else. Gentlemen, thank you so much. And Merle, what have you been up to preparing for Halloween?
I've got some stuff going on in Vancouver. I'll be investigating about 3 or 4 different places over the next 3 weeks, and hopefully I'll have a little presentation in time for Halloween to show everyone.
Exactly. And we want to make sure that all of our listeners, too, go over to Merle's YouTube channel, The Paranormal Road Trippers. We got to get them to 1,000 subscribers here. We have to. So everybody who's a fan of Merle and SOR, make sure you go to the Paranormal Road Trippers YouTube channel and hit subscribe to that. And then we got these two guys, Brandon Alvis, Mustafa Gatollari. Brandon, it's always good to see you back. Anytime we get a chance to talk with you, my friend, it's always a good time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
What have you guys been up to? I mean, you and Mustafa, you got this new book out. You're working on a bunch of projects. I mean, the ghost hunting never ends for you guys.
Never, man. We're very excited about this book. Been working on it for over a year. So it's finally coming to fruition. It's going to be released January 8th, 2022, months out. And we're excited, man. We put a lot of work into it, a lot of research. I think 16 years total come together in this book, and we're excited about it. That's for sure.
Oh, for sure. And Mustafa, we bring you in here now, and you know what, man, it's good to have you here. I'm going to get you to unmute your mic first of all, so that way we can hear you. But for you, I mean, how excited are you that not only is it Halloween, it's ghost season, and everybody's chiming in on what they think the paranormal is, and now you got this brand new book just in time for Halloween. Exciting times, man.
It's incredible. I just want to say first and foremost, I love the show you guys do here. I love that you open it up talking about, a doctor spelunking your butthole. I love Bumblefoot, and I love Brandon, and I love working with him. And it's going to sound really corny and dreamy, but it was really paranormal love at first sight. No 90-day fiance kind of drama here. It was really great, and I was super honored when he it was like a mutual kind of agreement for us to do this book together. And it's been a very, very crazy, arduous labor of love. We had like 9 rewrites, dude. It was crazy. We went through the ringer, and very, very, very happy with what we came out with. And I know people are going to love it.
Absolutely, guys. I mean, Mustafa, stick with you here for a second. What are you doing in New Jersey? Okay. Are you allowed to talk about that?
I'm looking for crack. I'm just going around trying to get. I could say that, right?
Well,
no. I ride back. I go to New York City twice a night. That's where I get my crack. And no, I ride out, and I ride my bike to go in and out of there because I'm what my doctor would call a fat slob, and so he wants me to get extra exercise. So I figured if I'm going to New York, I might as well save $20 on a toll and then ride a bike in there. So I'm sorry, I got caught up back. So now I'm just on the streets of New Jersey. It's a lovely night, and I feel like I've met a lot of Canadians who are one with nature. So I figured I got to be at one with nature, sitting on the concrete while talking to some Canucks. So I apologize for my surroundings, but it's cool. We might see some people walking by, so it'll be fun.
That's all right. You can introduce them. You're doing a live radio show. Mustafa, you want my autograph? $20.
I'm gonna ask them. I'm gonna tell them. You're gonna see me get beat down. Ooh, mood lighting. You're gonna see me get beat down here. People, that'd be cool. That'd be good ratings. You guys.
It would be good ratings because I'll tell you, it would be caught on film. Absolutely.
I'll do anything. I'll do anything. Kick my teeth, and I don't care.
No, you got nice teeth. You got nice teeth. You never played hockey, so I mean, you survived. All right.
I played NHL '98 on the Genesis.
Same thing.
98 would have been good because you had Scott Niedermeyer and Scott Stevens on defense there as the number 1 pairing. Led by Ken Danico on the end. You're not a hockey fan.
Listen, if it's not Jaromir Jagr and Mario Lemieux, don't even talk to me, bro. Those are my guys.
Killing me here. All right. Well, let's talk some ghosts here, guys, because you guys have embarked on a very ambitious project in order to try and bring some real reality to the ghost hunting, and it culminated with your book, Elements of a Ghost Hunter, which can be found online at places like Amazon and elsewhere. I know, Brandon, you are one of the most outspoken individuals in the paranormal community. People either love it or hate it, but there's always a grain of truth, I believe, with what you're saying. And as someone who has been myself very critical of the paranormal field over the last number of years, I am very thankful that somebody in your type of position with your popularity in this field has actually stood up to a lot of that. Why did you decide that you were going to be the guy to take that chance and be outspoken and call out, the fakers, the hoaxers, the people who are, faking evidence or whatever? Why did you need to be that guy?
Well, I've always kind of been that guy. I just now have a platform because of Ghost Hunters, which I'm very lucky to have. But I've always been very lucky to be around brilliant people, medical doctors, scientists, engineers, people that have really helped me remain grounded in scientific principle and going out and actually looking at this field from a logical perspective, remaining grounded in not only scientific principle, but logic as well. So, once I got on Ghost Hunters and actually was able to be part of a production that large and to, have a license through Pilgrim and A&E to actually do the research properly, I thought it was just, the time to really start to talk about how production and paranormal really clash and collide when it comes to entertainment, not only in television, but film. And, what you see 99% of the time on these shows is people presenting false positives and presenting, fabricated evidence as fact, for ratings, which is very unfortunate. But, I've been very lucky to work with some brilliant people that have really helped me and guided me in trying to, stay scientific, as much as possible in this field. So, I've always kind of been that way. But I think since doing Ghost Hunters, it's just a little louder. That's for sure.
And how about for you, Mustafa, as we kind of look towards that? When you look at the way Brandon has been kind of outspoken about calling out a lot of not only people personally by name, but people like, who even paranormal teams who are maybe not acting in the most professional manner. I mean, that's a lot of stress to put on you guys, because you guys being on television, everybody in the paranormal hates you because you got the gig. You know what I'm saying? And it's out of jealousy. Yeah. It's out of fact, I've seen the comment, oh, I'm better than that guy. How could that guy get on TV? Look at me. Look at my mustache, or whatever you want to, have yourself set out to be. But, I mean, when you look at it, working with the guy next to you, how did you guys mesh so well, considering, there's a lot on your shoulders?
I think a lot of it has to do, and then I'm going to get like philosophical and then very shallow. So buckle up, Buttercup. But basically, I'm very like amorphous as a human being. I kind of like, I'm like a replicant from Blade Runner. You kind of I don't have an alignment. I feel like I could very easily be somebody who's full of baloney, and I don't want to be that person. And I fight every day to not be that person. So I always try to just align myself with people who are very honest and very outspoken. So I really just try to do acts, because my feelings are very neutral most of the time. I see somebody doing something, and my natural reaction, even though in evidence it's bad, my natural reaction is to be like, well, that doesn't really outrage me that much. And I have to literally sit there and look at it evidentially. I'll be like, well, actually this work that they're doing or this way that they're acting is bad. So I have to process it almost like a robot. I know I don't seem like a robotic guy, but and that's how I process things. So it's very simple. I don't see it as a lot of stress. I think it's a lot of stress if we were fraudulent ourselves and we're calling out other frauds, and then there's that constant guillotine of when the truth's going to come and cut our heads off. That would be stressful. I think it's way less stressful to go over that hurdle of this initial discomfort to be like, okay, this is the situation. We want to work for a great situation, which is to make the paranormal field better. If you do not stop falsery, tomfoolery, shenanigans, whatever the hell you want to call it, people, what was that? Oh my God, oh dude, something's happening. And they're like, everyone's just trying to one-up each other on these shows, or they're like indulging false positives when they know they're false positives, or they're actively triggering equipment with walkie-talkies and stuff and what have you. you're not working for the situation. Don't call yourself a paranormal investigator. Call yourself a bad actor, because if you were a good actor, you'd get on a TV show or you'd be a stand-up comic. If you were really funny, don't go to the paranormal shows to pretend like you're gathering evidence when you can't hack it as an actor. Just go and just go. Yeah, paralarping. That's
you called it
fantastic. Yeah, paralarping. So just go to that field if that's what you want to do. Don't go and ruin the paranormal research field, just because you can't hack it as an actor. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, we're not saying anything. And when Brandon, it doesn't bother me when he says anything. I'm just like, good. All right, cool, man. Great. Do it. Like, you know what I mean? And, he's not saying anything that's false, and I don't say anything that's false. I try not to. And if I make a mistake, I own up to it. And I think everybody needs to do that. We're human beings. But, like, it's so ugly when someone just, I'm right. You don't know me. It's like, no, we know you. We see you. And you suck. It's very simple.
False positives are unfortunately the norm now. That's where people get off with evidence. I find traditional ghost hunting is boring for a lot of people, where they don't want to do put in the time to do the actual research. And the real research is sitting in a building or in a room for could be hours in silence versus having like a phone app or an Ovilus giving you false positives, is because that's like the adrenaline rush people look for. It's like when you have a drug that's really hard, it's hard to come back down to the lesser drug, And I find a lot of our field is doing that, and it sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, you're going to get more. This is going to sound like a very wild idea, right? But think about your favorite music. Think about your favorite business people or your favorite artists or whoever it is. They're the ones who are the most honest. And I'm not talking about honesty in terms of like, oh, they've never lied. Like, they probably, cheat on their boyfriends and girlfriends or whatever, whatever that is. But it's just like, I mean, like lies in terms of like what they're going after and what they have to say is honest for them. Steve Jobs, love him or hate him, he had something to say with his entire business philosophy. And we are naturally, just Mother Nature, you cannot change these rules. We naturally gravitate towards people who are honest. So I think if you work honestly, believe it or not, as hippy-dippy, crazy, transcendentalist, metaphysical as it sounds, I think that is your best bet at actually encountering energy or an entity or whatever it is when you go in and investigate. I don't want to hang out with some guy who's like, "Oh, I'm so cool." Like, get the hell out of here, bro. I don't want, you're selling false goods. You're a false prophet, eh?
False
so I don't want to hang out with you. Yeah, false guy.
And I can see that, and I can see where the anger kind of comes in, if we can call it anger, or maybe frustration is a better word for you guys, because here you are trying to play a clean game, and look, I'm the outsider here, and if I go on a ghost tour, I'm not going investigating for anybody else. I'm not there to find the science. I'm not there to prove or disprove anything. I want a thrill. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But when I think what you're getting at is there's a big difference between those who are going out there, Brandon, who are thrill seekers, looking for a different type of adventure like I would be, compared to those who are going out there really trying to solve some major answers here in regards to the paranormal.
For sure. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a paratourist or going out there to, have a thrill ride, if you will. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But, just mimicking what you're seeing off these shows and then replicating that in locations that are a lot of times historical locations, museums, private residences, things like that, it can become a very dangerous situation, not only for the people involved with those businesses or homes, but, you're just setting a tone for the public and the scientific community to look at us in a different light, which is, detrimental to our work and detrimental to the field in general. So it's a really slippery slope. Again, there's nothing wrong with being a paratourist or having, a thrill out of it. That's great. But once you go in and you start to label those things as serious research, that really starts to become a problem for sure.
But you can't cross the two, and yet so many times we see a lot of paranormal teams out there, Merle, that are crossing those lines, and I know that's why, Merle, for you have decided to kind of become an introverted, if I could use that word politely, an introverted investigator by doing your own thing rather than joining one of the major groups in British Columbia or Canada or Washington State, which is close to you.
Yeah, I just find it's more of like this is going to sound like an ass thing too, but if I would almost bet if I went to a lot of the teams around here and said, "Can I see your research? Can we exchange research?" I guarantee you it's not cataloged. Whereas I would hand my hard drive over to somebody, no problem, saying, "Okay, on July 13th, 2012, I was here. You were here this last week. Why don't we collaborate?" And I think that's where people kind of, the researcher versus the weekend guy, right? And I find it's more of a social club where people, one thing that blows my mind that just has me pulling my hair out is I've been working with a couple guys out here that do filming that want to do something for the city of Vancouver. And we've been trying, well, they have been trying to get us into some locations, and they're all locked up from teams with all these weird contracts saying that no other teams can go in. And I'm like, what the hell, man? It's just a restaurant, or it's just a mansion. Why do people have these locked down? And I find that it's getting away from the research, and it's more for like the turf or the flag waving.
Yeah, what do you guys think about that? Where you get a lot of these paranormal teams. I've heard it a lot in California, Washington State, Oregon. I don't know how it is on the East Coast, but you get a lot of these teams out there that are trying to lock down locations so that way nobody else can get that. Brandon, what is the purpose of that? If you're wanting to lock down a location, and why is it good or not good to do that?
Well, I think it all comes down to money, really, first and foremost. I've always related it, and the analogy I've always used is it's like the Wild West or the gold rush when people were staking claims. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, this is my turf, my gold mine. You can't touch it. But it's really negative for the locations. Like Merle was saying, you have these restaurants, sometimes museums, historical societies, things of that nature, that are now going to be missing out on money because they have these exclusive contracts with these teams that are, in some way benefiting off that. But if you were to open that up to the general public or other teams, that's going to drive in not only more revenue for these places, but it's also going to open up a wider audience for the historical aspect, and with historical societies and museums, I think that paranormal investigation and those type of programs always do very well for them, because people that typically wouldn't show up for a historical type of tour will show up for a paranormal tour. And what's cool about that is the paranormal investigation side is almost like reliving history in a sense. And it's a really great program for those type of places because, again, you're having an audience you typically wouldn't get. And once you sign an exclusive contract with some of these teams, that's going to go kind of out the window, unfortunately. But, I think it all comes down to money, per se. They want to run tours of their own in these places. They want to get a piece of that revenue stream. And again, it's not good for these buildings, and it's not good for the field in whole.
Mustafa, I know you got a comment on it. We got 1 minute to go before we go to break.
Yeah, no, just echoing what Brandon said. I mean, people, they just sometimes it's money, and sometimes it's just kind of like petty jabs. These weird kind of grudges form between different individuals in the paranormal community, and is there anything more lame than a low-level para-celebrity? Like, it's probably the most embarrassing thing in the world. Is like when you think like you're this important person. It's like just get over yourself. Like it's really disgusting. I can't look at there's some things that I've seen, man. I can't even look at some people. I can't even look at them. Like, I'm not exaggerating. But then there's others, you go in and they're really all about the research, and they're really all about just really pushing the field forward. And there's no place for that. You can hate somebody. You're not going to like everybody. I don't.
let's continue this topic when we come back from break, guys. Paranormal Road Trippers, Merle is here for Ghosts of the Great White North. Brandon Alvis, Mustafa Gatollari, their new book, Elements of a Haunting. We'll get to it next on Spaced Out Radio as we return talking ghosts. All right, guys, we're clear.
Sick. Nice.
That's quick.
Fuck, shit. Sorry about that, guys. Again, I hope you weren't freaking out. I was definitely
having a
not
good
going to
time.
miss it.
Having a good time.
Get that green light behind you now, man. Looks good.
Just
like it, right? I was so happy.
Moody look.
Just remember, guys, that we're still
about to get abducted.
We're still live on YouTube, so just
Oops.
no, man, it's all good. It's all good.
Mustafa, put your hat out like that. Maybe you'll get some change. Or
Oh man, I gotta get a hat. I got a Dunkin'.
You should have a sign that says "Low-level paranormal celebrity."
Nice. Hey, Low Pro, how are you? Good to see you.
Pro.
And who else do we got? Skip to Malou. Gorgeous Larry is here. All right.
Gorgeous Larry.
Gorgeous Larry. There he is, everyone.
Well, that was fun.
All right, we're done. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
That was a quick half hour.
My future is so bright, I gotta wear shades.
Oh, God.
I put my sunglasses on for my kids, and I'll be like, they'll be talking to me, and I'll be like, I'm the bad dad now. I don't do anything they want. I push over their toys, and then they fight for who gets the sunglasses, and they be bad, and then they feel really, really guilty, and they're like, no, I'm sorry. I'm the bad dead dude. They call me dead dude. I'm like, I'm the bad dead dude, and I put it on. Look like Moon Man from the old McDonald's. Remember Moon Man, the McDonald's late night commercial?
Oh yeah,
the saxophone stuff, right?
Mac the Knight. Wasn't that Mac the Knight? The Moon Man?
Yeah, at McDonald's.
Oh, that was horrible. That was horrible.
Slow your roll there, buddy, all right? It
sounds like it was a huge impact on my career.
Yeah, it's like, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for those McDonald's commercials. Save my life. You don't fucking know.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, I like Jenny's comment. Don't hold back. It's just us. Oh, yeah.
Damn, that's a dope mug, Brandon. Is that matte black?
It is.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thanks, Merle. Merle, you killed my second half hour with that comment there. That was
Which one?
About the paranormal teams doing that.
We can still. Oh, I could still go on that.
Well, actually, I do have a question regarding that, and I don't want this to be a real, beat down of a lot of paranormal teams. Like in hour 2, I want to get to the book. I want to get to some of your favorite paranormal stories because it is Halloween. But we'll take this part till the top of the hour, and then we'll shift gears there. And
let's talk about the tea. Let's just get into the nitty gritty. You know what I mean? Let's just bash on people.
Your guys' book, in all honesty, is freaking awesome. Like, you literally put a clinic on of how to investigate.
Well,
thanks. I got your message, Merle. I was just riding my bike. I'm not very good at it.
Yeah,
so.
save all the good stuff, Merle. During the break.
I'll say it again, okay? I'll say it again.
During the break is not it. I got to teach Merle that during the breaks you don't give away the juice.
Not even
the juice.
The juice, man. Toe tag, how you doing? Oh, hey, Clam. Knucker, what's happening? Yeah.
There's someone called OJ in the chat, and we just started talking about the juice.
The juice? Oh, man.
No. Oh, hey. OHA.
Oh, hey. I just said OJ.
No.
OJ
we're not
Simpson.
talking about the juice, no.
What a great guy.
Just fantastic.
Hey, I was watching Pawn Stars the other day, and they sold like this gold statue of him for like
of OJ?
$1 million. Of the juice.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I guess he used to be like like the side of his pool or something like that.
That's all it sold for? I would think at least 12 mil.
Surprised it didn't end up in Zach's museum.
Oh yeah, haunted.
It's haunted.
Dude, that's gonna end up at like, you know, some dictator's house, like Duarte from the Philippines, or like Kim Jong Un.
Seriously.
He's dead
Great
now,
man,
though.
great man.
Yeah, he's a great man. He was in Naked Gun 33 and the Third.
He was very good in that, by the way.
Yeah, remember when
Very
he spikes the
promising
baby?
career. Oh yeah. When he's in the hospital bed and he smashes him.
All right, boys, we got 27 seconds. I want to say a big thank you to Cat Chaser ×2, Dirt Road, and Mark for the awesome super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis because we are here 7 days a week for you. And also, don't forget, you can go get your Spaced Out Radio swag. Go to our website, click on shop. We got t-shirts, hoodies, hats, everything available, including the stock of Merle clothing that you can get.
Oh, boy.
Yep, Merle clothing. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. We can... what else we got? Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and you can check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with Merle and Ghosts of the Great White North and our special guest tonight, formerly of the television show Ghost Hunters. We have Mustafa Gatollari and Brandon Alvis. And right before the break, we were talking something a little controversial that's going on in the paranormal world. And I'd be remiss to say I'm pretty ignorant of this fact. I'd heard about it. We've talked about it on this show, but I didn't realize it was happening that much out there, that paranormal teams are actually getting locations to lock down from other teams investigating places. Now, Mustafa, Brandon, I want to ask you guys this, if you don't mind. If you guys got invited to a paranormal location and you found out that that team had locked down that location with a contract, would you go?
Personally, yeah, I think I would. I'm not going to like boycott it. I mean, I would tell them, hey, it's kind of lame that you guys are doing this. And I've said that. There was one place, I won't mention it. I found that they kind of had like an exclusive deal. And they were doing that. But, yeah, I think you got to like open it up to let people investigate. I think when it comes down to with the exclusivity is, from what I've seen, is like the exclusivity for like events or like paid events, and stuff like that. That's what people want. They try to get it like a cut with it or something like that. It basically just goes down to what Brandon says. But if the place is really cool, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can resist the temptation. I think my principles kind of go out the window if I get the chance to investigate a really cool spot and a little para slut that way.
How about you, Brandon?
I have been to locations that do have that, exclusive contract in play, and you really don't know it until you're in that situation and maybe say you want to do an event there yourself or you want to come back for an investigation. And then there's certain terms associated with that where the team, house team, whatever you want to call them, has to be on site during investigations and things like that. It's definitely, I would think that, I would say it goes against the ethics of the field. But I have been in those situations before, but I definitely would have a talk with the team and possibly the owners of the building and to let them know, that there could be a lot more, publicity and a lot more for that structure that really could help them and benefit them when they're not in these exclusive type deals.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of what Brandon was saying in terms of like the house teams, is like sometimes too is like we've come across certain scenarios where a house team or an owner of a location would definitely like want it to be portrayed a certain way, or they want things to go down a certain way, or there's a certain narrative that they have or a certain vibe to the activity that they're like selling. as part of like a brand, and then they get very, 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 I think the scientific term is butthurt when like you go and you like find things that don't like really help to contribute to this narrative that they've created. So that's where I really have a problem, and I'd probably draw the line where I'd be like, oh, okay, you're basically trying to live in like Delusionville. Cool. Like, I'll go do my own thing, and you can have this location. There's plenty of haunted spots that I can go to. I don't need to be here.
Well, I can understand the point of wanting to lock it down, because if you're actually doing true scientific research, which 95%, 98% of the paranormal field is not doing, then I can understand that you don't want, if you're working some sessions, say you're working every weekend on this one location to try and get the information that you need. I can totally understand getting somebody to sign a contract and say, look, this is what I'm doing. This is what we're trying to solve. We don't want anybody tampering with the evidence or the gear we've left behind or the location in general. We don't want any contamination. That I get. But if you're locking down locations just to screw other teams from enjoying the same locations you've enjoyed, that's a totally different ballpark, totally different ball game that really shows an arrogance that isn't needed in this field, I would assume. Merle, let's get your opinion.
I'm all for sharing locations, because say Brandon's team goes in and gets XYZ and evidence. I think it'd be cool to have your team or Mustafa's team or my team to also go in on different nights. Then you guys can collaborate your evidence, and you can even do a group investigation together. I think all teams bring in a valuable asset to places, and why not share it? Because if you're researching, that's what scientists do. That's what researchers do. You talk to other scientists and researchers. You debate it. Mustafa, your EVP sucked, but mine sounded like this. Brandon, that's a great EVP. It's almost like mine. It's the same voice. Why? There should be things like that, where it should be extremely open like that, in my opinion.
But to play devil's advocate with you, Merle, I mean, there's a lot of teams out there will say, well, boo-hoo, we got to them first, and that's exactly what our team is doing, is we don't want people contaminating our locations. But, I mean, if you're locking down a restaurant that's allegedly haunted, let's say a restaurant in Boston that's 180 years old, okay, it's going to be contaminated every day with people. You can't use the contamination argument. It's going to be contaminated every day. So
Boston contaminated.
Yeah, especially with Red Sox fan. You don't need that. You don't need that. Nobody needs that.
Or the Bruins.
That's some negative energy there, man.
Totally.
I didn't mean that. It's a lovely city. I'm just.
But you guys get where I'm getting at, though, Mustafa. I mean, this is where it shows the ignorance of the field, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, again, it really, I feel like we're kicking the can here. It really does just kind of boil down to, like what you said is like, oh, I'd understand if there was a team locking it down and they were investigating it every weekend. I don't know many spots that are doing that. I don't know, Brandon, can you think of any that are actively doing that off the top of your head right now? Like any places?
There's quite a few places that now, there was teams I knew that did something very similar for a number of years. One was Linda Vista Hospital in Los Angeles. Now it's been converted to a place for the elderly. But you don't really see it too often where, teams lock it down for that specific purpose, which is a brilliant idea. Dave, you're exactly right. If you were doing some true scientific type research, you would want to cut down on that contamination like that. But even then, I mean, if you had, certain cameras or certain equipment, locked into a location for, say, a year or more, I think the more people you bring in to try and conduct that research within that building, and the more you can have data points and, empirical evidence that can be cross-referenced and correlated, that's going to be beneficial. Because you're looking for, to try and replicate, right? So if one team goes in, has results, you want to see if another team can come in and replicate those results. So that would be beneficial. But, I know Linda Vista Hospital, I think it was Boyle Heights Paranormal, For a long time, they were the exclusive team at Linda Vista. They did allow a lot of other teams there. Other people had events and whatnot, but they did have it locked down for the most part for their research purposes. And I think it was actually some really cool stuff that came out of there, but you don't see it often, that's for sure.
So let's kind of change topics here for a little bit here as we continue on here on Ghosts of the Great White North with Merle, Brandon Alvis, and Mustafa Gatollari. Gents, as we're going on, at this time of year, a lot of people have an interest in the paranormal. Everybody's a paranormal investigator come the month of October, carrying their pumpkin spice lattes into...
ring lights. Keep going. Did he freeze? No, he didn't.
Go ahead, Merle.
he did.
Oh, no. I had to add that in too. Sorry.
Okay. Anyways, I'll continue with the show here if you don't mind. Carrying their pumpkin spice lattes into the areas of, all these ghost hunts and, let's go, it's 12 o'clock. We've had a few drinks. Let's go walk the cemetery and get scared. And, we see it all the time. We do at this time of year. For people who don't really understand how the paranormal works and they only have an interest in this phenomena, usually around October, Brandon, we'll start with you on this. How do you teach these people, that you don't need Halloween to ghost hunt?
Yeah, there was many years I used to help with programs at the Hayward Area Historical Society, the Santa Clarita Valley Historical Society, San Fernando, many programs I helped run over the years that were, designed for Halloween and designed for October. Again, like I mentioned earlier, it's always a great way to bring in an audience to learn about the history of a place that typically wouldn't go to, a historical tour of some kind at these locations. But, once they're in a location, they learn about that history and you start to talk about the paranormal aspect. I think that something kind of clicks in their head where they start to relate that history with the paranormal investigation side. And I think that they start to think in broader terms. They start to think, oh, wow, it's not just a Halloween thing. This is an all year round type of location to go in and investigate or learn about its history. So, bringing them in and putting them in that situation, in that scenario, I think that the history aspect always kind of, gets people out of that Halloween mindset.
How about for you, Merle?
I agree with Brandon. I think it's using Halloween is a good way to get people into these historic places. If teams are doing fundraisers and that, it's a good way to generate revenue in the off season, whereas people usually go in the summer or springtime to these places. So I do. I think Halloween's a great time for exposing and learning about history with a little bit of a spooky kick to it.
But a lot of people, Mike, they don't look at it as the history. They don't look at it like there's a story behind it. They want to go and they want to hear bumps and cracks and groans and moans and see shadow people and see things out of the corner of their eye that make them spook themselves. That's what they want. How do you teach that, though, that there is a level of importance to what, investigating the paranormal is all about?
Well, in that case, if that's what they're looking for in these places, you can tell them to go to the haunted houses where they have like the scares coming out and that. But some of these older museums do have a lot of that. They do produce a lot of good evidence when you're there. I look at it as like fishing. Sometimes you get a fish, sometimes you don't when you're fishing. And it's like that when you go on any investigation any time of the year.
Yeah, and then I also think like with the whole like Halloween, what we're talking about, like poser syndrome, right? And so it's like, Kourtney Kardashian's wearing a Slayer t-shirt. Like, okay, like, and then all of like, the people who follow her on Instagram are like, oh my God, Slayer. And they go, and then, there's somebody who's been sacrificing goats since they were 11 years old, listening to Slayer and like practicing the Raining Blood solo. Like they're highly insulting. But then out of that, like, I don't know, I feel like maybe you'll get out of the 10,000 people who saw that Slayer shirt, you get somebody who's like, wow, I'm actually really into Slayer. And then you meet this really cool person who's at a Slayer concert and they got into Slayer because Kourtney Kardashian was wearing the t-shirt. So I don't know. I feel like you kind of you kind of get into that like that way. Like, you know, you get into that. I got into paranormal investigating because like my family was obsessed with like jinn. And I got into it because I was just like, well, I'm going to prove that, you know, this malarkey doesn't exist. And I wasn't a believer in like ghosts and any of that stuff. And then I started like investigating it and getting into it more and more and more. And then I was like, holy crap, there's actually like a lot of interesting stuff here. And that's what got me into it. So you never know how somebody's going to come in. But yeah, I think 99%, I don't think it's just with paranormal investigating. I think it's just people in general. Like 99% suck and then never keep their word. And then, like, you know, you got some who, you know, the few, the proud, the brave or whatever. And then those are the ones that you run with, and they're cool, you know, and you find your people no matter how it happens. So I think it's great. I think it's all great, you know, as long as they're not getting drunk and disrespectful on like the tour, then yeah. You know, I've been in those situations where I've gone to like events and like people were like drunk, and I'll be like, "Hey guys, all right, cool. Like, you can go investigate this part of the building, go have fun, investigate." Which is maybe a little bit, but like, you know, I just kind of went and did the real work with the people who were there for the real work.
On our tour that we did up here, we put in our rider that they had to sign beforehand that if they were intoxicated, if we found out they were intoxicated or drinking on the tour, they were immediately kicked off the tour without refund.
Wow!
Immediately.
I'm never going on one of your tours. But
that's all right.
No, but I agree, man. Like I know like some people who are like, oh, I gotta like do like a little bit of food before I investigate. I was like, that horrible.
You went all muffly there.
I'm all about partying. Brandon will tell you, but like that is like horrible. Like that's got to be like, you know, how do you trust anything? Like, it's crazy.
Agreed.
Very true. We got about 7 minutes to go here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. It's Ghosts of the Great White North with Merle, Brandon Alvis, and Mustafa Gatollari. And gentlemen, as we continue on here, you know, being the month of October and we're all preparing for Halloween, we're all excited about the trick-or-treating for the kids and all the ghosts that seem to come along with it. Do you really believe, Brandon, in this whole thinning of the veil at this time of year?
You know, that's an old, you know, tradition, and it's an old saying, you know, that many people have been using. But I don't think it necessarily has to do with the time of the year per se. You know, there's certain times where there's certain environmental conditions that are just right, where that veil, if that's what you want to call it, is thinner. So I don't think it's necessarily attributed to Halloween or October. I think it can happen, you know, anywhere at any time. It's just really a matter of the environmental conditions associated with locations. And that's, you know, one thing we talk about a lot in the book. And again, I think that, you know, Halloween's become this huge marketing beast that it is. And I think it's a easy way to sell tickets to a walk-in tour or to a ghost hunt for this type of, you know, this time of the year. But I don't think it really has to do with the time of the year per se. I think it's it can happen anytime, anywhere. It's just a matter of those environmental conditions.
How about you, Merle?
Well, do I believe in the veil? It's the same thing as like the full moon. They say the veil thins with the full moon, with the new moon, and all that sort of stuff. So I think there's more to it than just the Halloween veil. And I agree with the other things Brandon was saying, how Halloween is a big marketing machine. It's better than Valentine's Day. It's like you spend so much money on it. I think that's where the focus comes. But again, I don't know. I think it's the same as you'll get the same results with a full moon or a new moon, my opinion. If you're looking in it to that stuff.
Mustafa, do you think that the veil is thinning now as we draw closer to Halloween?
No. No, I think it's like Brandon said. It had to have come from somewhere, you know. It had to have come from some type of belief, and maybe there was certain environmental conditions that occurred many aeons ago that created the perfect elements of a haunting. And then people started to be like, well, that happened around this time of year, and it was a night like this, you know, and that's how that legend gets created. But I do believe that legends are always rooted in some type of honesty. So I think, like Merle and Brandon were saying, there's specific environmental conditions that when met, and we've experienced this, Brandon and I, time and again, places with metal limestone deposits, and the day after it had rained, or if there was significant thunderstorms, we knew we were in for some sugar honey iced tea. And almost without fail, every single time we captured something. So look, it's an arbitrary calendar that was decided by a government, a great one, but the calendar that we follow is, it was a Roman calendar. I don't even know. I don't remember. But it's the Judeo-Christian calendar that we've decided to adopt. So I don't think the date has anything to do with it, but I think the environmental conditions did.
Very cool. All right. As we continue on, do you have a favorite Halloween story, Brandon, that you'd like to share? We got three and a half minutes.
Nothing that jumps out.
Favorite ghost.
Nothing that jumps out, but I do have a funny story about having, running a program at a museum where it was around Halloween and bringing in the general public to do investigations like we were talking about. And one guy was so hammered drunk that I caught him by himself in the building with a huge Zippo lighter holding up an original document, trying to read it in the dark.
Oh my God.
Almost caught it on fire. So that was, I guess it's Halloween-y. So there you go.
Oh, well, Halloween-y is right. How about you, Mufasa? Or Mustafa, sorry.
That's all right, you racist. No.
Wow. Ouch.
I'm Albanian, dude. It's not this joke.
Brandon did right. You muted his mic.
I couldn't help it. It's all right, man. I mean, Trudeau's worse than you. Don't worry about it. But I can't help myself. My favorite Halloween story was the neighborhood we grew up in was really we lived next door to close by these really affluent neighbors. They had the candy. We're talking full size candy bars. So what we would do is we would remix our costumes after doing a pass, and we'd change them up, and we'd go with other pillowcases, and we would hit the houses 3-4 times, me and all my friends in one night. And if you caught a house that was dumb enough to leave out a bowl of candy that said, please take one, I for the first 2 passes, I'd be like, I'm just going to take one. But once it hit 9 p.m., all bets were off. And I would go and just take the rest of those bowls. And I put in, man, I know all of my weight problems now are from that one Halloween in 1995. That's it. It's that's what did me in, dude. I was fine until then. That's when I got the hunger, bro. That's when I got the hunger.
I get you there. Merle, you got 90 seconds. Favorite Halloween memory?
Well, I've always been kind of like a plus-size model, so we'll go back to my childhood. And I was always the last one running, right? So I was in a haunted house. I probably would have been 11, 10 down the road from my house. And the neighbor, these guys used to always, you'd walk through their garage like a little maze. And at the end, there was this guy with a chainsaw. And he obviously didn't have a blade on it, but you could hear it, right? And he caught me and literally tapped me with the chainsaw. Done. I thought I was dead. Scarred to this day. Every time I hear a chainsaw go, that's what I think about. Then
that guy is my hero.
Master. He is.
That is awesome.
And this is
can't
why.
do that nowadays, though.
No, you can't do that nowadays. Somebody will be offended.
Dave, what about you, man? The hell?
Oh, goodness. Until I was about 14, I had very strict parents. I could never get a costume that I wanted to be. My mom would all of a sudden go shopping. Here's your Halloween costume. You don't like it, you're not going.
I feel like one of the members of the Monkees. It's sucks.
Oh, man. One year she got me this outfit, and it was a big inflatable spider on top of your head, right? And she's like, I got you this costume. Isn't it awesome? I said, Mom, I wanted to be an army man this year. No, you'll wear this. No, I'm not wearing that. That thing's ugly, Mom. Smack. You know how it goes. And, God bless her, man. I love her to death. But God, she had bad taste. You know,
bad taste in
Oh
costumes.
my God, it was horrible. It was horrible. But yeah, we always had to raid the house that gave out the full candy bars and the juice boxes. So that way, when you got thirsty, you got a can of pop or you got a juice box. Had to raid those. Gentlemen, we'll be right back here on Spaced Out Radio, 1 hour down of the Paranormal Road Trippers and Ghosts of the Great White North with Brandon, Alvis, Mustafa, and our main man, Merle. We continue on with hour 2 next on Spaced Out Radio. I shouldn't make fun of my mom because she's actually in hospital right now, but I will because that's kind of fun.
Man.
It's kind of funny.
Hey, that juice box idea. Honestly, I'm so glad I asked you. That is gonna make me the hero of Halloween. I am gonna get a 72 pack of Capri Sun, and I'm gonna put it out there, dude. These kids are gonna be like, "Oh, that's so smart."
Oh yeah. You give them a little bit of candy. You got to realize these kids have been going haywire with nothing to drink because they don't bring water, they don't bring anything to drink, and because mom and dad
they're idiots. They don't even bring a coat, and it's like cold.
Oh, I realize that. Oh yeah, yeah. I had one of those mothers who, you know, you'd have your costume on, and then but put your jacket on. It's cold.
Ruins the costume.
Mom,
ruins the costume.
Nobody will know what I am. Oh, sure they will.
Yeah.
No. What will people think? Oh my God.
His little clown nose.
Well, yeah, that was like, I remember in college, like, we'd be like going to the different frat parties and sorority parties, and it'd be like Christmas time, and these girls are walking out in these like cocktail dresses and like, 10 degrees Fahrenheit outside. My friends would be like, damn, dude, look, what the hell's wrong with them? It's like, and girls would be like, hoes don't get cold. But then I'd be like, bro, just think about it. And I use the Halloween analogy. I'm like, you dress like Batman and your mom wants you to wear a jacket. I'm like, it ruins the freaking costume. He's like, oh, I get it now. He's like, so these bitches are like on Halloween. I was like, yeah, bro, that's what it is, right? They're like on Halloween all the time.
Oh man, I'll tell you a funny story around the Dave house at Christmas time. My mom, when it came to my father, has incredible taste in clothes. When it came to my sisters, incredible taste in clothes.
Yeah.
Comes to me, I would look at this and I would get like the brown and yellow plaid shirts. Like that shit brown color and plaid shirts and like I would say to my mom,
oh my God.
I would say to my mom, I don't want any golf shirts this year. Please, I have enough golf shirts. And Christmas time, I'd get like 3 or 4 more golf shirts. And thanks, Mom. Thanks. Oh, yeah.
It's like Izod polo shirts, like the Izod polo shirts. Like, they're always on clearance. Like, if you go to the store, I don't think there's ever been a single Izod shirt that was purchased full price. And the history of retail. It's never happened.
Very cool Halloween story for you guys. And I would love to investigate here. In Churchill, Manitoba, there are no roads to get there. You have to fly in and fly out. Okay? But here's the interesting part. On Halloween night, no child is allowed to wear a white costume because on that night, it is the most popular night for polar bears to come strolling through the community. So literally on Halloween night, you have I think it's 60 or 90 minutes because it's a small town. There's only like 700 people there, if that. You only have 90 minutes to trick or treat if you're a kid. And then you go into this hall where if you missed some candy and they have festivities. But while the kids are out trick-or-treating, all the men and the police surround the city with rifles in case the polar bears come.
That is the coolest freaking story I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. That is quite possibly the coolest story I've ever heard. Because most people would be like, we're just going to do it indoors.
Yeah.
We're just going to do a Halloween party. And they're like, no, these kids are going to trick-or-treat, and we're going to freaking kill a polar bear if we have to make sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's my favorite story.
That's the reason why kids can't wear white costumes, so they don't blend in and looking like polar bears that are moving in town.
Wasn't that
Good shot. Yeah.
Manitoba? That was one of my favorite hockey players. What was it, Eric Nestorenko or Steve Nestorenko? He was from Manitoba. He was
Eric,
badass, dude. Nestorenko, man.
he was tough.
He was a tough MFer, man.
Oh yeah.
I like the enforcers. That's how I like
too.
the hockey players, Brandon. You know, the
Me too.
enforcers, like the guys
Yep.
who suck at playing hockey, but they just want to throw
They can barely
hands.
skate.
Like, yeah, they can barely. They're on
Throw 'em
the
out
ice
there,
in
man.
sneakers.
Goons. We call them
Yeah,
goons.
goons.
Yep.
Goons, man.
Love it.
I love that.
No teeth and can't skate.
Yep.
I love it.
Nothing wrong with that, boys. Nothing
No,
wrong with
that's right.
that. There was
That's crazy, man.
as I s-
I should be more fond of Canada than I am. I love Rush, and I love hockey, and like I just like Poutine's
Gotta
great
love Rush.
too.
Poutine's good.
I love Rush. It's like they like the craziest band. They have lyrics like "Beware the wizard, he will blind you if you offend him," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, then he goes into a 52-minute bass solo. I'm like, "This is the best band ever, dude."
I remember learning Tom Sawyer on the drums, and man, was that song hard to learn.
Oh, jeez.
You learned Tom Sawyer?
Dude, I played drums for a long time. I used to teach drums, yeah.
Wow.
Merle, any
Yeah.
update on your haunted dolls?
Oh, they are in a box beside me at my feet. I will be opening, I'm going to an event on Saturday where they would like to see these haunted dolls, and I will hopefully have the fortitude to open them Thursday. Have free time on Thursday.
All right.
Brandon Mustafa, I had these dolls sent to me from Indiana, actually, and I'm going to
Ooh.
investigate them, see if I can get any evidence out of them.
Okay, hold
If
on.
they are
That's
haunted.
nice.
Hold on, boys. Here we go.
Sure.
Thank you to Spooky Cat Chaser Mark and Dirt Road for the super chats. Thank you to all the veterans tuning in. If you're brand new, hit that subscribe button. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Thank you to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. All you got to do is go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Listen in and, hang on out with us. That's what we do. That's what we do. Let's go to the Desert Clam here, who's set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Oolagon. Oolagon is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Shirky Poo's Newswire, and you can check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with Ghosts of the Great White North here as we have Merle from the Paranormal Road Trippers outside of Vancouver. He's my co-host once a month to talk everything paranormal and supernatural. And Brandon Alvis Mustafa Gatollari are with us, formerly of Ghost Hunters. They got a brand new book out. Yep. And I'm going to let them tell you all about it. Let's go with Brandon here. I could introduce your book, but I think it sounds better coming from you, my friend.
Yeah, Elements of a Haunting. It's being published through the Welland Worldwide. Amazing publisher. They've been publishing books for 120 years now. And it'll be out here January 8th. Pre-orders are available now. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, various other outlets. So it's there. Check it out. And, we worked very hard on it. 16 years of research really coming together to not only introduce a classification system for ghosts and hauntings, but to really lay out the standards, ethics, and protocol that we use that has really produced a lot of great results. And again, we show a lot of our scientific principle in the way we investigate the paranormal. And the foreword is actually written by Dr. Harry Clore, a man that is the only person in history to receive 2 PhDs simultaneously in any discipline. So we had some pretty heavy hitters help with us on this book and really show us the right way of looking at this field from a scientific perspective.
Right. You said 16 years of research that went into this. So you've been taking notes a long time on your findings then in order to try and do that. How did it all culminate together? Like, how does it start out? And then, where do you try to get to?
Well, a lot of trial and error, starting with, founding the American Paranormal Research Association in '06, and really going out into the field and trying to document what people believe to be hauntings and ghosts, ghostly type phenomena, and really trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. So, I mean, we have investigated well over 200 locations in that time, and have gone out there and really, looked at this field from different perspectives. We worked with psychics, we worked with mediums, we worked with scientists, people that are heavily into ITC, anything you can imagine, we've tried and have, experimented with in the field. But it was really starting to work with Dr. Harry Clore and him really bringing his guidance and his ideas into the paranormal field. A scientist that's worked with JPL, NASA, various think tanks, working with the United States Senate, and really having him be part of our investigative process and really showing us what works from a scientific perspective and what would be considered pseudoscience. So him, jumping on and helping us try to investigate the paranormal from that point of view has really set parameters for us and really helped us set this, ethics standard and protocol. And all those investigations that led up to myself working on ghost hunters and meeting Mustafa and, putting all of those, ethics and protocols into practice on ghost hunters, some of which did not make the show. And a majority of that is in the book where we go into further detail about how we conduct that type of research.
All right, Mustafa, let's bring you in here. Getting together and bringing in all of this knowledge over the years, how did you find putting this all pen to paper, something you weren't used to but felt it needed to be done with Brandon?
Well, Brandon and I, we were constantly working when we were on the road. Before the cameras went on, before the cameras were rolling, when we were back from filming episodes and our times with family members, I probably communicate more with Brandon than anybody else. And we're constantly working. And it's been like that since day one. So when I was telling him, I'm like, hey, I'm really journalizing like a lot of the things that are happening while on the road for ghost hunters, and I'm writing all this stuff, and I want to publish something. I have an MFA, a Master's in Fine Arts and Creative Writing. And I'm a show doctor. I worked on scripts and stuff for like plays, and I had a short story published. I used to write for. I'm a journalist for Distractify.com. I wrote for my local newspaper, I wrote for my college newspaper. I'm constantly writing. I don't write anywhere less than 5,000 words a day. So I'm like, all right, let me write about the paranormal. So Brandon expressed that he too had an idea for like a book and he wanted to do a guide. And so much of paranormal research is so directly intertwined with the history of a location. So that's why the book is, elements of a haunting. And Brandon came up with this great, very pithy, and I tend to ramble on a lot if you didn't tell. But Brandon came up with this really great pithy way of describing what the book's about, and it's connecting history with science to uncover the greatest ghost stories ever told. So it just really was a perfect complement of what we each bring to the table. And Brandon's a huge history buff, and you should see the way he gets excited when he's like, he'll be like, dude, and he'll find like this connection. It'll be like 3 a.m. He's like, bro, look what I found. I'll be like, oh shit, and then we're like, oh shoot, and then we'll go back and forth, and we're going, and we get really excited. So I think there's that enthusiasm. That's the most important thing. So he has an honest, genuine enthusiasm. And that's something I'm always constantly working towards and I want to cultivate for myself. So it just seemed like a natural fit. We did the book and it was incredible. I mean, he cold pitched, what was it, like 3 or 4 publishers. And within like the first 10 days of pitching, we had multiple offers. So we were super lucky.
Well, let's talk about some of these chilling encounters and stories that you guys have in here. We don't want to give too much away because, the book is coming, but tease our audience a little bit, Brandon, with some of these, stories that you have covered in depth regarding elements of a haunting.
I mean, there's so many different cases that are written in the book, but one that always sticks out and probably is one of my favorite chapters would have to be the Worley Hospital in Pampa, Texas. And that was a really great moment for research. Mustafa and I, going into a situation where there was this abandoned hospital that was purchased by two cousins, with the hopes of turning it into a bed and breakfast one day. And actually, one of the cousins that was a partner in buying this building was going to live there. And they had a lot of reservations about the building, a lot of experiences, a lot of stories connected with the Worley Hospital, like there is any abandoned hospital in small towns. But once we actually got in there and we started to conduct the research, Mustafa did a lot of historical research, found some amazing facts associated with the building, one of which was the story of this nurse. A younger nurse in her 20s who unfortunately committed suicide and took her own life within the hospital. And I'll let Mustafa speak more to that. But when we were in there and we started to, like the book says, connect history with science to uncover, the greatest ghost stories ever told, that really took place in Worley Hospital, where you have this, very tragic story of this woman who was in such a bad place in life that she ended up, taking her own life in that hospital. And we used that historical fact within the investigation and had amazing results, not only with motion detectors, but with the EDI Plus, the data logger. And we had genuine contact, connected through using these historical facts and using these amazing tools to try and document the evidence. But the Worley Hospital is an unbelievable place and such a sad, tragic story. And I think a case that we had some resolution, and it fell perfectly into our classification system that we implemented into the book. And it all really came together there, I'd say.
Very cool. I mean, that's pretty eerie when you're able to combine history with the results you're getting. And that's really the key of it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's that. Go ahead, Mustafa. Sorry.
No, dude. Please.
Yeah, like anytime we go into a location, there's a lot of investigators out there that want to go in blind or don't want to have any of, the historical research or facts behind the investigation because they're a medium, a psychic, whatever it may be, and that's totally fine. But we've noticed that anytime you go in armed with as much knowledge as possible, you produce more results and you start to be able to, put those pieces of the puzzle together. But again, I'll let Mustafa speak to the history of Worley Hospital, but it was a perfect example of our research where that history, the ethics, the standards, and the protocol that we use within our research, it all came together in this perfect paranormal storm, if you will, to really, produce results that not only were, pretty groundbreaking, but really helped the clients at Worley Hospital as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was sometimes things just, it doesn't happen often, but like sometimes things they just come together, they just, and Worley Hospital was one of those instances. And it was very fitting because I think that was like our 10th case on Ghost Hunters at the time, I think. And we had gone through, and we always got, we always did great work, and, we were always many sleepless nights and really racking our brains like, how can we push the envelope further? How can we push the envelope further for ourselves, really, and really push the research further, to really just lay it all out on the table because, Brandon and I were of the same mindset. It was like, this is our only chance. We might not ever be here again. This is a huge opportunity to really showcase great paranormal research or how we believe it should be conducted. And Worley was one of those places. And again, starts off like anything. It was very, very dead, not really much going on. And then all of a sudden, Brandon captures something on his body camera. Okay. And we had, front loaded this entire investigation with all of these stories. And it's a hospital. Of course, there's a lot of deaths there. And everybody always thinks it's like haunting has to have to do with like deaths. But there was one in particular, and that was of this Mary Lucille Myers, Mary Stanton before she got married, which was just a really, really tragic story. And I won't go into it too much because I want you cheapskates to buy the book. But Brandon and I remember him saying it verbatim. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Brandon said, "Dude, if there's anyone here, it's this nurse." And I said, "Yeah, I agree." And we met with like local people, local historians, local newspapers, and looked over the stories and everything. And I was reading up more and researching more about it. And we were investigating the second night. You had construction or mock demolition being done in the building. Walking through the hallway, I always second guess myself whenever I think I see something because I was like, there's no way. Like, what are the chances? But there was this one time, this is an old building, there's no wiring, no reason for there to be any EMF. We did sweeps beforehand, all that. Could have swore I saw something. I even convinced myself that I imagined it. But I said, F it, I'm going in this room. Go in that room, immediately start getting EMF hits on the data logger, and Brandon and I both, like the hairs on our arms, stood up. Heavy feeling. Is there someone there? Okay. I just want to make sure, is there someone there? Pop, pop. Okay. We wait, because it could be like a timed thing, something that's causing it. Are we speaking to a man? Nothing. Speaking to a woman? Pop, pop. Just want to make sure. Are we speaking before I can even say it? Pop, pop. Okay, cool. So we start going down until it finally became very, very evident. You start talking about occupation, going through the list of occupations, going back and forth, control questions. We asked, is this Mary Lucille Myers? And then, yeah. And then to not only get, that was on a data logger, then we radio Grant, Rochelle, and Kristen, who are upstairs above us, and we're like, hey, we think we're getting activity with somebody. And Grant's like, all right, just to make sure, he goes, can you ask them if they can come up and interact with our EDI because we're not getting anything? Okay. It goes up there. EMF starts going off on the EDI. And the EDI is, you can't manipulate it. I mean, in order to manipulate it, like, you literally have to breathe into the sensor or go right up to it with a device. Even that doesn't work because it's so well insulated. Like, you can't really manipulate it. So then they send the Mary back down to us. Our motion detector starts going off. And then it starts communicating with us via the motion detector. I guess maybe because it's easier. Then there's one point where the motion detector light, these are Brandon's, they're these very simple lights, blue light, very calming, very nice. The light stays on. And the way the light stays on, if something's standing right in front of it, it won't dim and shut off until it moves away. So we're there and we're like, oh, we're very sorry. Could you please move away from the light and then step in front of it when you want to answer yes?
Makes sense.
Light starts to dim. Brandon and I clean the fecal matter out of our pants, and we're very excited. And we go and we start getting question and answers out back for like 25 minutes. And what's really amazing is when we're done with the investigation, it was one of the greatest back and forths we've ever had. Multiple times confirming that this is Mary Lucille Myers. I get a call from Brandon at like 4 a.m. We're in the hotel. He's like, dude. And I know that when I hear that, it's like, oh, man, I immediately start getting excited. My nipples get so hard. He'll be like, dude, you got to come hear this. Go run down to his room. I'm like, what's up, man? He's like, put these on. He puts the headphones on. I'm so excited because I'm like, oh, yes, I love when Brandon has something. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to the audio. He plays it and he's just looking at me. And you hear, me going, oh, excuse me. It's like, could you please step away from the light and only step in front of it when you want to answer yes? And you hear a woman go, oh, okay. Right on the audio. Clear as a bell. Nice. Clear as day. Perfect correlation. And it was, there's so many other things that happened on site. Visual sighting that we later confirmed. It was that investigation was the gift that keeps on giving. And then I think for a paranormal investigator who's trying to communicate with somebody who they've heard stories about at a spot, and then combined with the evidence that we gathered, and then combined with other stuff that we found out afterwards, it's like I don't know. I don't know. I felt very spoiled. I'm like, holy crud. Like, I'd been doing, paranormal investigation now, like 17 years. I don't know if it'll ever get as satisfying as that. And I don't care. Like, I'm just, keep going forward and whatever. But that was like, I'm like, wow, I cannot believe I experienced that in my lifetime. I'm like, what a life. I know when I'm on my deathbed, I'm going to be thinking of that. Like, that was like one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me.
Well, let's talk EVPs here for a quick second. Merle, do you have a favorite EVP that you've caught?
I have lots of favorite EVPs. One that sticks out in particular. Actually, I'll send it to you later, Brandon. I'd like you to hear this one. We're at a private residence, and it was on an old on indigenous land. And Sandra was going, "Is there your basic B paranormal questions? Is there anyone here with us?" We knew a bit of the history on the property because we dug into the property. We knew a bit of history on the land because we dug into that. We knew the players of the people that passed away in and around the house with this family. And the tell of the house was this old farmer-looking man, like 1800 style farmer. The occupant would see the man outside all the time, and she thinks she could hear him. But Sandra's sitting there at a table. And obviously we don't hear anything right now because we're just rolling audio, like we got our Zooms going. And she goes, "Is there anyone here with us?" The temperature goes down a bit. And then later when we're reviewing our footage, it's this grumbly, gross-sounding Cherokee. It is probably one of the I could say grossest, but it's not. It's one of the most unsettling-sounding EVPs I've heard in all my time doing this. And whenever I do events or show people what we do, that's the first EVP I show them to hook them into. Like, this is big business here.
No kidding.
So,
how about you, Brandon? Do you have a favorite EVP that you've caught?
Absolutely. The one always sticks out in my mind. It was in 2008. I was doing, at this point, I think about 2 years worth of research at a location called Heritage Junction Park in Newhall, California. And, the big reason I was investigating this particular location was because it was a collection of historical buildings from that valley that were all moved and repurposed in another area. And so I was always curious, is it the land that haunts a place? Is it the building? If you move a said haunted location to another place, is there phenomena that retains within those walls? And that was something that really always, was interesting to me and intriguing. So I was investigating the Saugus train station, which is one of the many buildings that are in this now park. And I was upstairs in the station master's living quarters and conducting the EVP session. Myself, one other male investigator that was there, no one else on the property, completely locked up. No one could get in there. Massive property. And the funny thing is, when they moved this train station, they actually ended up setting it right next to an Amtrak train track. So, there's still a passing train next to this 120-year-old building to this day. And all of a sudden, the rail crossings go down. You start to hear the bells going off and you hear the train whistling. And you very clearly, louder than our own voices, you hear the sound of what sounds like a British female say, "Will that be on the train?" Not only does that show that there's, some form of intelligence there, one, but two, it's very interesting, the mechanics behind it, because it was so loud. It was louder than the passing train. It was louder than our own voices. But what makes it even more interesting is the fact that at this point in time, I didn't know the full history associated with the Saugus train station. And when I actually showed this recording to the president of the Historical Society, her jaw dropped because she, I wasn't aware of this, but she ended up telling me that at one point, this train station was also ran as a place called J.H. Tolfree's Eating House and Hotel. So people passing through and missing their train or waiting for a train, and the next day would, have something to eat and then sleep in one of the 3 little rooms that were upstairs. And J.H. Tolfree and his wife immigrated to the United States from the UK, from London. And it perfectly correlated with these people that ran this hotel and eating house in this train station over 100 years ago. And J.H. Tolfree's wife passed away in the train station.
Wow.
So that clip, not only because how clear it is and that it's been tested through spectrum analysis, and every audio engineer I've showed it to has no idea, but it's very, very clear.
All right, Ghosts of the Great White North with Merle, Brandon Alvis, and Mustafa Gatollari, our special guests tonight. Elements of a Haunting. That is their new book coming out early next year. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. My audience is loving the crickets in the background, Mustafa.
That's awesome.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Set the tone.
Yeah. I'm used to hearing them, whenever I talk. Reminds me of my old stand-up days. Crickets are very reliable.
Oh, yeah.
At least you have an audience, right?
There was a little mouse coming up over here, so I was like, I apologize if I'm looking around. There was this crazy guy walking around, so it's not that I'm not listening to you guys. I just want to make sure I don't get murdered on this show.
He's searching out
I was like,
life.
some guy was walking and there was a mouse. I was going to take the mouse and throw it at him. Like, that's what I was thinking of doing. You know what I mean? Because murderers never like mice. Like,
nope.
That's my experience. Merle's like, oh, I know. Trust me.
Oh, I do.
Oh, yeah. I think my favorite EVP that we caught was we were doing one of our ghost tours up here. It was the night before Remembrance Day, and no, it was night after. Pardon me. And we were talking to one of the spirits in the lower part of the big barn, and we had like 8 K2 meters. And I know I know you guys don't like them. I don't really care. But we had 8 K2 meters, and this guy was setting them all off at once, standing in the middle, like right to red. Okay.
Fuck.
Wow.
Yeah, it was insane. So we know the barn was built as a tribute to a gentleman who died in World War I. So we didn't, and there was always this one guy in the bottom part of the barn. And we were communicating. We said, and I kind of step up and I said, yesterday was Remembrance Day. I want to say thank you for your service. And all the K2s light up, right? And I said, did you serve in World War I or World War II? And lights go on. Okay, Dave, be specific. Come on. Okay, did you serve in World War I? Lights kind of flicker. And then did you serve in World War II? Lights kind of flicker. And so I made it more specific going by years. And then I said, well, if you served between 1939 and 1945, you were in World War II. We caught an EVP saying, oh, sorry. Like,
wow.
Yeah, clear as day. It was insane. Absolutely.
And that's insane. How it was a Canadian ghost, because it said sorry.
Exactly.
Hey.
Exactly.
That was a terrible joke. Please don't laugh. I feel like Jeb Bush.
Very
Please
bad.
clap.
Please clap.
Remember that? Please clap.
Oh, God.
That is great. You guys have a good vibe, man. I like it. This is I gotta tell you, it's beautiful out here. I think this is it. This is my house now. This is my home. I think I found it, man.
Going to the street.
You have the nice white noise of the crickets.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was the best. Like right when we started, there was a guy walking on. Like I guess his girlfriend or something was like complaining to him on the phone. He's walking by. He's like, oh, come on, man. And I was like, I get it. I was like, oh man, sorry, bro. And he's like, oh man. And then like he walked by again and go to his car and we were like started. He's like, you still talking? I was like, I don't know you, dude. Like, I don't care. Oh, I hear you, brother. They're all battle axe. They're all insane.
Man. We've got about 90 seconds here, guys.
Where do you guys want to take it next half hour?
Ooh.
Well, I'd like to get you guys, because it is Halloween, I'd like to get some ghost stories in. So if you've got a good one from a location that really stands out, we'll get into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to do something like
spooky, thrilling.
Spooky?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think we can think of some. We got some
for sure. We'll do it. And we got about 1 minute here.
1 minute more.
1 minute.
10 cents a minute.
Uno
or
minuto.
MCI. 10 cents a minute. Holy smokes. Wait, did hockey season start? I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't even watch it.
I don't even watch it anymore. NHL's terrible.
Vegas Golden Knights, baby. Vegas Golden Knights.
Golden Knights.
They made it to the Stanley Cup Finals their first year. They're out in the desert.
And they're all Canadians that play on the team.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what's interesting about the Knights? Their assistant coach, Ryan Craig, I taught him.
What?
When he was when he was training as a teenager. I was a hockey instructor for 3 years.
No way.
That's awesome.
Dude, you gotta show me when we meet up. You gotta show me. You gotta show me how to do the knuckle puck from Mighty Ducks 3.
Not that bullshit. I like real hockey. I like to fight. Hold on, guys. Here we go. Past the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Good to have you all here. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. You can follow us and check out our swag as well. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with Ghosts of the Great White North. We got Merle here from Paranormal Road Trippers. Give us a hat tip if you don't mind, Merle. We'd appreciate that. And, of course, formerly of the Ghost Hunters television show, we got Mustafa Gatollari and Brandon, Mr. Alvis. He likes to be called Mr. Alvis. And, gentlemen, before we get started here, a question from Gloria in our chat room. Do either of you guys have any sad encounters or experiences with an entity?
Yeah, I would say so. In 2013, I actually moved to one of the most haunted hotels in Southern California, the Glen Tavern Inn, and I kind of wanted to immerse myself into a haunted location. So I moved there for 3 years and lived there and helped with the day-to-day operations in the hotel. And I always heard stories about the place. I conducted a few investigations prior to moving there, but it wasn't until I actually lived there for a few years that I started to see that not only was there, entities in the building or things we believe to be entities and ghosts and, paranormal phenomena, but I started to notice that this building influenced people in a certain way. And, I started to notice that people that I worked with and lived with, had this strange influence on them from this building, and it brought out insecurities in people in a very odd way. And, there were kids in the building. There was a lot of stories about, the location being a tuberculosis hospital at one point, which there were no historical records to prove that. But there were many times that I documented, the sound of a young kid crying in the building. So, I mean, that was a very sad instance of, hearing a child crying in a building and not really having any idea who this person was or why they were possibly haunting the building. But knowing that there was a kid that was, sad there, and somehow it seems like that sadness kind of influenced other people that lived there and worked in the building, and to the point where a good friend of mine who lived at the building for many years, he unfortunately took his own life at the hotel years later. So it's a pretty sad story. And sometimes living in these places and inhabiting these places, can really take a toll.
Very cool. Very cool. And that makes a lot of sense. It reminds me of the Suicide Hotel, the Cecil in LA. Man, I mean, that just seems really weird about that, that kind of negative energy at a hotel, Brandon.
Right. Yeah, what's funny enough, recently Netflix did that whole docuseries on the Cecil Hotel. They shot a lot of the interviews at the Glen Tavern Inn, the hotel I lived at for many years. So it's kind of coincidental that they use that for the backdrop for a lot of the interviews. But I think there's a very similar type of story between the Cecil and the Glen Tavern Inn, not only from historical perspective, but also from the influence of the building.
I want to ask you guys something before we continue on, and I get Mustafa and Merle's opinion of Sad Encounters for Gloria. But with the Cecil Hotel, I know up here in Vancouver, the Elisa Lam case is still quite fresh in a lot of people's minds because her parents still have a restaurant in Vancouver, and they're still convinced that she was murdered, that it wasn't a suicide, that something went wrong there. And even though she battled depression, anxiety, I believe she was bipolar disorder diagnosed as well. My question to you guys is this. Never mind the case or the haunting of it. I got to tell you, it really didn't sit well with me when Ghost Hunters last Halloween did a big special on that case. I mean, it's only 7 years old. It's shrouded in mystery. Her parents are still destroyed over what happened. People in Vancouver who were friends or college classmates, it's still quite fresh in their minds. To me, I thought it was real low class. And I realize in America, you may not care about this. I'm not trying to be overly sensitive or be offended or anything like that. But, but to me, 7 years is just, it's a long time, but it's not. And am I wrong on feeling this, or did you guys have that same feeling too? Brandon?
I still think it was pretty fresh.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't agree more, Dave. Like, there's certain things that just need to be left alone, especially when there's family still grieving over someone that they lost. I mean, a loved one. It's I would say it's no different than a lot of these videos you see on TikTok or videos you see on YouTube of people using ITC, very fraudulent first and foremost, trying to connect with deceased people that died just days before or missing people. It's very sad and extremely insensitive. And I think that, a lot of people use that as a platform to try and gain notoriety or whatever it may be by taking advantage of people that unfortunately lost their lives, very fresh, very new. I think it's very despicable, and I couldn't agree more.
Mustafa?
Yeah, I mean...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I saw someone, it was like 2 days, it wasn't even 2 days. I think it was like 38 hours after Gabby Petito was found dead. Someone was like uploading like, oh, I connected with Gabby Petito. I got her voice like over here. And I'm like, and within, I think, what was it, 3 days, they like had amassed like 285,000 views or like something crazy on YouTube, which was like, for that account that nobody really follows was huge, dwarfed the viewership on all those other videos. So like, Logan Paul's Japanese suicide forest video, one of his most highest trafficked videos, and he ended up taking it down after like some outrage. But then his stock only kind of grew higher. Now he's boxing Floyd Mayweather. People are scum. I think the majority of people, not to get all depressive, there's a positive in this, I promise. We got to start with the negatives. People are scum, and I think we're getting worse as a species. It's our choice to just be like, no, I refuse to kind of indulge in that. And you're going to have, it sounds like a Cormac McCarthy novel, like The Road, like, are you going to be somebody who decides to have a standard and stand up for something, even if you don't even know what that is anymore, even if an actual human connection is impossible? You play out the nostalgia of that, and you kind of hold on to your horses, because that kind of like disgusting behavior, it doesn't really end well. You know, you can try to justify like, oh, it's okay. Oh, it's this. I mean, 7 years is, yeah, I agree. That's way, yeah, I would say for something like that, if you got a grieving family, and then there's also like, what are you trying to do with it? I'd understand if it was like 7 years and like you were maybe opening a cold case. You know, you have these like true crime podcasts, like, which is like, you know, some of them I think people are so annoying. It's like, shut up. Like, I'd love to see you have this much enthusiasm, like, you know, for your own dreams and career and like personal life. But like, you want to solve the, you know, Brian Laundrie mystery. It's like, all right, dude, it's like, relax. Just, you know, maybe make it to work on time. And then you can worry about solving Brian Laundrie's, you know, where he is. But like, I think a lot of that could be helpful, because maybe we are going to try to get justice for somebody. But like, I didn't see any of that with that, you know, with that film, that series, whatever it was. I don't know. I didn't watch it. But like, from what I've been hearing, it's just like an exploitative thing. So it's like, okay, cool. You want to go and you want to exploit somebody's death, and it's this like kind of crazy news story, and that's how you want to roll. That's on you. Like, if that's the kind of person you want to be, great. There's going to be an audience for it. There's clearly an audience for it. But then I think it's up to people who don't want to do that, right, to be bold enough to make their way of working entertaining. It's up to us to make it entertaining.
Well, it's all about clicks.
I don't mean entertaining in the sense of like, ooh, you know.
No, but the reality is, it's all about clicks now. It's all about you know, funky headlines and clickbait. You know, I mean, that's the ridiculousness of it. And these people who are doing that, and I know the people you're talking about, and I'm only not giving their name because I don't want to push more viewership there, because the person makes more money off of it. You know?
Yeah.
But
I'll just say this, though. That's not livable. There's a big difference between, I know people who are huge influencers and YouTubers who get signed to like major talent agencies, went on 500 something auditions, they couldn't book anything. I know people who, you know, there's an appearance of something, but when it comes to actual livability, it's what we'd call a dry screw. No lubrication. It's not fun. You know what I mean? It's not livable. So you get the sense, it's like you put somebody in a room who does that kind of stuff, that low-level garbage work, up against somebody who's doing great work, they get decapitated in 2 seconds, metaphorically speaking. Or, you know, I don't know. It depends on what, you know, if we get transported in medieval times, then trial by combat.
All right. While we got you, Mustafa, let's get back to Gloria's question here. Have you had any sad encounters or experiences with an entity?
Yeah, right now, I mean, I've had a few, but the one that's coming to my mind right now is one of the first episode of the A&E's Ghost Hunters. We're at Pocatello. There's that inexplicable feeling on the bleachers, and then I come to find out that there was, I don't know why all these revolve around, you know, people taking their own lives, but there was an individual who really graduated from the high school, loved the high school so much, and he was having a pretty hard time in college, and he would come back and he would just hang around the high school because he loved those days so much. And he'd watch the games, and he'd sit like right up to those bleachers there. And what I felt was the way he would greet people. I felt like someone was hugging me. I didn't even know that. I expressed it on camera, and then I go and I talk to the historian, and I told him what I felt, and he's like, "Wow, that's exactly how that guy would like go and greet people." It was like this like hug that he would do, and he would rest his chin like right here when he would hug you. So I was like, oh man, that made me feel kind of sad. I was like, I wanted to go back there and be like, hey man, what's up? But you know, get him some lunch or something and sit down and spend time with him. You know.
During our ghost tour, we have in one of the houses on the property, there's a little girl. And one of our tour guests, her name's Jennifer, and I know her very well in my community. She was sitting on the floor, and all of a sudden she started getting this real, like Jennifer has 4 children, and she started getting this real motherly instinct. And the K2s, you would literally watch the little girl kind of come in right to where Jennifer was, and Jennifer's K2 meter started going crazy, and she asked the girl if she wanted a hug. And you saw the lights go right to red and hold there. So Jennifer opened up her arms, and she said she could feel the little girl come in and just give her this hug. Like literally she was feeling the little girl's cheek on her face. And, you know, this little girl just would not let her go. Like it was like she was just lost without that motherly attention. It was actually quite an emotional time. Merle, I'm going to skip you on this one. I want to get to another question because I know we want to get into some stories here. We're running out of time, but Stephen has a great question here. He goes, the facts are largely unknown. How do we approach these topics in a meaningful manner that does not just go nuts and bolts, nor hyper woo, and not go over a million old cases that prove nothing? Mustafa, let's start with you.
You have to start with what is concrete, you know. So, like, you know, the facts are largely unknown. So, let's say you're going to investigate a location. I'm assuming this is pertaining to paranormal investigating. You have to vet all of your information. Hit up local historical societies. Look up county records offices. Look up, you know, Brandon mentioned it to me before. We had talked about Sanborn fire maps to see like what a location originally was. Look up all of the data that you can about a location. If there's a specific family that you're investigating as part of your, you know, as part of a paranormal case, get as much information on the family as you can. See where they live. See if they live there. And you start with that. And you work your way down from there. So, like, how do we approach these topics in a meaningful manner that does not just go nuts and bolts? So, how to approach it in a way where it's not just like, hello, is Michael here who, you know, enjoyed peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and all that. I think it's that human connection. Think of it in terms of you going to meet somebody for the first time. You're trying to make a connection with somebody. Usually the best way to instantly get on a page with somebody is to attack that disconnection. Right. And that disconnection is what you feel in the moment in that situation. So literally rehearse how the investigation is going to go in your head. Because the second you get there, just like you rehearse for a first date, just like you rehearse on your first day of school, just like you rehearse for a job interview, your rehearsal goes out the freaking window the second you get there. But you at least put work into something when you arrive. You don't stick to just what you rehearsed or just what you thought was going to happen. You have a basis, and that's very human. So if there is an entity there that resonates with that human energy, what I find is that if you are being human and you are honestly trying to make a connection and to bring it to a place and you're fighting to care, that's how you take those facts, because you did, nice headlights. You take those facts, you take that research, and you're trying to use that work that you did. It's like, I don't know, I can't communicate with you. I don't think there's a way I can communicate with you. I kind of feel like a horse's ass because I'm sitting here talking to myself in the dark. Please give me something. Am I speaking with Michael right now? That's way better than going in there and just being like, is Michael here? There's no comparison between the two ways. And that's not just an inflection. You can't fake that. You have to really try to move that emotional weight of attempting to connect with a human being, because this is presumably a human being.
Very true. Brandon, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think like Mustafa said, it's, just the basic fundamentals of human connection. Anytime you want to do research and really have that knowledge prior to going in and investigating, there's every library, in major cities has, a genealogy department, and these people that can really find, cold hard facts associated with the people that lived and some of which died in these buildings. So you can find very personal information, in these departments, and talking to people that conduct, extensive genealogy. And when you go into a location, you can get very personal from that point of view, and really talking about, the culture of these people, talking about the time period they lived in, and really looking at life from what their perspective would have been. So, going in with all that knowledge and really having, that basic fundamentals of, the human connection, and having as much knowledge as possible about the people that lived, worked, and some of which died in these buildings, the time period, their culture, their beliefs. I think that goes a long way for sure.
How about you, Merle?
I agree with what they're both saying, and I agree. Go big on the history. Instead of going to a location and be like, "Is anyone here? What's your name?" Go do that. Go do that extra mile of research and find out that Sam lived there, and Sam was known for doing this. So when you go to the location, you want to, "Hi, my name's Mike. I hear Sam lived here. I want to have a conversation with you," and go like that instead. And I think a lot of times you have to want to be at these locations instead of it just being another location. And I find that you'll get more results kind of that way too.
We got 4 minutes.
Intent.
We got 4 minutes to go here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. And I promise you, we will get to some stories here when we come back after the top of the hour break. But when you look at putting this together, and I think Steve said it very well, you can't be too nuts and bolts, you can't be too woo, you can't be straight historian. There has to be a combination of everything. But one thing a lot of people try, I think, too hard at is being a skeptic. We're not allowing the evidence to really take over and for it to speak to itself. So how do you tell people, Brandon, not to be so skeptical? Just let it go. Let the evidence speak for itself.
Yeah, when you go into any investigation, if you go in very skeptical or you go in believing, you're doing a disservice to that investigation, and you're coming in from a biased point of view. So if you're going in to say, hey, I don't believe in this stuff, you're very much not opening your mind to the possibilities, or like you said, letting the evidence speak for itself. So if you, go into an investigation from that biased point of view, there's not going to be any results one way or another. There's going to be a, total confirmation bias there. So I think that you have to be open-minded. You have to go in, look at the evidence, look at the environmental conditions, look at the data points, look at the empirical evidence, and then draw your conclusions. Not going in with a preconceived notion of there not being something there or there being something there. It can go both ways. But like you said, let the evidence speak for itself. If you can consult someone that's an expert from a technical industry, say audio recordings, visuals, whatever it may be, and you can take them something that you can't quite explain, and they don't have an explanation for it, you're left with something that's paranormal. So again, you can't go in being too skeptical. You can't go in believing too much, because you're not doing the proper research. At that point, you're biased, and it's a disservice to the investigation.
Mustafa, we got 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, just echoing what Brandon said, but in terms of skepticism, I think it was Dr. Harry Kloor who we referenced earlier in this discussion. I mean, this is a man who is a man of science. I mean, that's an understatement. But, he would say any person who just kind of goes in and categorically declares something as that's impossible, that's false, is a fool. I think it's exactly what the word that he uses is a fool. So I think skepticism, blind skepticism, is just as bad as just blind belief. And I would argue that blind belief in some instances is actually better to have, just because, at least you, depending on what it is, it's like maybe you want to believe in something that's like cool or interesting, as opposed to just like blind skepticism. It was like, that's impossible. And then it's like, okay, but we work as skeptics in terms of just trying to eliminate any type of practical explanations for what could happen. And we vet that. We challenge the stuff that we document. But I think just to categorically say none of this works, I mean, you're not doing anything. How's that working? It's not. You're just a hater.
Well,
Haters gonna hate.
I always find it funny because, in researching for this show, after nearly 7 years, I can tell you this. When I would go onto websites for paranormal teams, the minute I saw someone standing cross-armed on an angle with the photo that said Team Skeptic, and they always had that serious look on their face, I immediately knew that the team was full of it, that this was playtime. Because if you're not willing to be skeptical and trust your own skepticism, and you have to have a team skeptic, then you're not accomplishing anything. There's nothing scientific, and you're not accomplishing anything. But then again, I could be wrong. I don't think so, though. We have Brandon Alvis, Mustafa Gatollari, and Merle for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. Yep, story time when we come back. And then we got the fedora-wearing John Hudson with the UFO Report right after. I love that skeptic pose.
It's the best. It's the best.
Yeah.
Dungos, bro.
Or the guys who put their hands in their front pockets and then they give the kind of like this look.
Oh my God. We saw this one guy who did this thing where he like checks the time and then goes like, like he
every
adjusts
shot.
his neck. Ooh, yeah, every shot. It was
Every shot.
so embarrassing. I'd be like, oh my God.
Cool, man. I thought it was cool, dude.
Yeah, you did. Are you him right now? Is his friend? He's like, I'm like, what are you doing?
My
favorite part was he had no hair to really be grabbing onto either, which is very strange.
I know. he kind of had that spray on stuff.
Uh-oh. You don't want
Which
that.
is like, I get it. It's like, but like, don't call attention to the fact. It's like, we get it. It's the spray on stuff. You're using it for whatever reason. That's cool. Okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm balding. I understand. But like, to do like you're not Fabio. You're not Dave. You're not Dave Scott.
I'd lend you some.
Wonderful mane.
I would lend you some. I
would love your hair.
Do not tell my listeners this, but I actually thought today of getting a haircut.
Oh, what?
Do it. It'll grow back, man.
No, this has taken me a year, man.
Are you serious?
This has taken me a year.
You got some thick follicles, bro.
Yeah,
I would get if I had your hair, dude, I would get all sorts of weird ass haircuts. Look at that. Yeah, beautiful. Oh God, you gotta do something with it. Get yourself like one of those F-boy haircuts.
I'll be good.
You know what I mean? Get yourself.
Put it this way: I'll be good when I don't have like chipmunk cheeks, and I'll be good when I don't have Grandma Louise hair. You know what I'm saying?
Grandma Louise.
Grandma Louise is cool then, man. I want her hair.
Like I got bingo parlor hair right now, I mean, that's the reality of it.
I got a bald spot, bro. Like, just like I got a bald spot. Straight up.
My favorite's when you got that nice fade, dude. A couple months ago.
Oh, remember that dope fade?
You were so pissed. So pissed. Dude.
Oh, that one, that guy who messed up my hair. Miriam's like, my wife's like, oh, go to this guy. He did Zach's hair really good. And I go there, and I'm like, this guy is an idiot, and I know he's going to mess up my hair. And I went in. Man, I was like, the guy's like, how was it? I was like, it's great. It was awesome. And I'm like, I make this guy feel bad. And then I left, and I was like, I went back home, and Miriam was like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good. And I'm like, I just kept telling myself, I'm like, don't blame her. Don't blame her because you blame her for everything. I'm like, don't blame her. Don't blame her. That lasted like 6 minutes. And I was like, I just find it funny that you told me. And I'm like, did you do it on purpose? I'm like, did you do it on purpose? Because it don't look that bad. And I was like, yeah, that's what everybody wants to hear. It's not that bad.
But did he shave the line in your hair with the fade?
Dude, he just like, it was the worst haircut of all time. I looked like I escaped from like Monte Cristo. It was like it was the worst haircut anyone ever received.
Wow.
In the history of haircuts. I was like, have you seen the shape of my head? I do. Oh, it was bad. I went to the Gettysburg Bash with it. Miriam was like, you're doing this thing at the Bash. People are going to want photos. You need a nice haircut. And I'm going over there, and I look like Simple Jack. Like I was just
Simple Jack.
It was the worst, dude.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's awesome stuff. When it's ready, I will send it your way. I promise.
Please do. Please do. I'm going to staple it in the back of my head. I'm going to look like Sweeney Todd. It's going to be black. It's going to be gray.
That's okay.
Cool as hell.
That's okay. I'm more than willing to send it your way.
I love you. Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
I'm that guy, man. I'm that guy.
Dave, you pulled that silver fox look off where you had it all slicked and combed back.
I
Sharp.
know, but I got to shrink my head. I'm starting to look like my listener Fap right now. He's got like a size 46 melon, right?
Hey, you know what you should do? You should go full-on bad guy from Kindergarten Cop and give yourself a ponytail.
Yeah.
Do it.
Oh, yeah.
One of the greatest movie villains of all time.
The least trustworthy hairstyle. The ponytail. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Detective John Kimball. Jesus.
That's
It's a great film.
LaDonna here's like, oh, Dave. Oh, she's just shaking her head. I am not man-bunning it. I'm not man-bunning it.
Yeah, that time's passed, man, you know.
Not here in California.
Really? You still got man buns out there?
Oh, dude.
Look
Talk about a pandemic, or actually an epidemic, really.
Yeah, that's a terrible thing. Nothing says my parents hated me as a child more and put me in soccer because of it than a man bun.
And moisturized hands.
Bun.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think it's mostly like, nothing says, look at me, I'm special more than a man bun.
Oh, yeah. We got
and then you talk to them, and all they talk to you about is like almond milk. I'll be like, dude, shut up. Like, that's all you have to talk about. I like almond milk.
This coffee shop.
All right, guys,
man,
we got 20 seconds. We got 20
A
seconds.
coffee shop.
Big thank you to Cat Chaser for the hat trick of super chats tonight. Dirt Road, Mark, and Spooky, thank you so much. It's a great way to support what we do nightly here on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you to everyone who's taken the time to check out our swag on our website, and all the veterans tuning in. We love you. We love the regulars, too. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on KPNL, Revolution Radio, and TalkStream Live. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ooligan. Ooligan is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Captain Shirky Poo's SOR Newswire, and check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce our good buddy Merle, co-hosting here on Ghosts of the Great White North. Merle's out of Vancouver with the Paranormal Road Trippers, an independent research team, and from the former stars of the Ghost Hunters television show, we have Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gatollari, and they got a new book coming out early next year called Elements of a Haunting. You're going to want to add that to your library. Gentlemen, welcome back, and we appreciate it. All right, Mustafa, let's start with you on this one, because I would love to hear your favorite story that you have ghost hunting. Or your most memorable, whatever it may be.
Okay. I got a crazy one. All right. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's an interesting one. Old Nazareth Hospital, which people aren't allowed to investigate at anymore. did a few events there, and I was out there with the luminous Kristen Lumen from the show, and she hates when I call her that, so I naturally call her that. But I went out there, and it was probably the second time my wife Miriam came out on a paranormal investigation with me. So we ended up going to Old Nazareth, huge building, really, really great location. And we start breaking up into groups. We had a paranormal investigative event there, and there's about like 75, 80 people. But the place is massive. I mean, you could really kind of split off into multiple groups, and people go do their own thing. So I was there with with Miriam, my wife, and then some members of Lone Star Paranormal Research. Great group of folks. And we're up there, I believe it was on the 5th floor. And if you've ever been on an investigation, you know, sometimes you get the sense of the feeling that like you're being watched. Something's there. It doesn't really want to interact. So I'm walking around, I'm trying to get some type of interaction. There's like nothing. And I just get a sense like something comes over me where I feel like a dog on a scent. Like I just keep going around. I'm pacing around. And I feel like wherever I go, and then I get hits and pressure, and sometimes like temperature drops, but mostly pressure. Anytime I'd get to a location, and then it would be gone. And the EDI, I'm holding it. So finally, I'm stationary in this one section of the hallway, and I get pressure, hits on the EDI, I get pressure, hits on the EDI, and then I start feeling like a pain in my left side. And I go like, ooh, like, all right, cool, maybe something's happening, because I heard that there was like a bad entity there, which I haven't really come across many bad entities. So I was like, let's see what's, like, I'm kind of like a masochist, so I'm like, what's going to happen? Ooh, I'm excited. Then I notice, like, my pain goes away, and then I start seeing my wife, she starts freaking out. And my first thought is, because I'm an unsupportive husband, is, oh, wow, she's ruining this event that I brought her to. I was like, how embarrassing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is terrible. But I felt bad, you know, because I told myself to. And then I'm like, baby, let's go. Let's go downstairs, and let's make sure you're taken care of. So made sure she was downstairs, went back up to, you know, be with the paying guests. I made sure she was in good hands with people who ran the event that I trusted. And then I went back downstairs, and I saw that there was this woman by the name of Phoenix who was cleansing her. She was doing like these prayers. And inside, I'm like rolling my eyes, like, oh God, like what the hell's going on? Like, and this woman, Phoenix, I guess you could like sense that on me. She's like, hey, listen, I know you think this is a bunch of baloney. I'm like, me? Baloney? No, I think this is, no, it's great what you're doing. Thank you. And she's like, but I promise you, like, it's going to help. I'm like, all right. Well, my wife started calming down, but she didn't really feel well to investigate. And she was drained, like just drained. So the night goes on. Again, same thing. You know, Kristen goes up to that floor. Nothing really happens. I bring a group up there, and I get that feeling again, like, this, you know, this, it happens a lot more quickly. And we're by this elevator shaft, and this building's long been abandoned. Start getting pressure hits on the EDI near the elevator shaft, and I asked him, like, hey, I'm like, if there's someone here, can you knock like this? And twice in succession, boom, boom, and then boom, boom. Okay. I'm like, hey, if there's someone there, can you knock, like, you knock again like that? Boom, boom. Pressure hits on the EDI, and everyone's like, the mood completely changed after that. So we go back and forth asking questions. We ascertain that, you know, it was a man who was treated there for a leg injury. It was left leg, and then it stops. So then a gentleman there by the name of Ken Potter goes to me, and he's like, hey, man, you want to go to the devil room? And I was like, yeah, of course I want to go to the devil room. That's why I'm here. So we go, we run around in a circle, we start doing short burst EVP sessions where we each repeat the same question and see if we're going to get a response. So as we're in this circle and we're asking questions, I start getting that pain in my left side again. I don't say anything. I'm just watching people, see if anybody else gets anything. Guy next to me, I see him go like, kind of grab his left side, and I'm like, okay, something's happening. And I'm again, it's very inhumane of me, but I'm like, what's going to happen? Third person, I see them, they do it, and then we lock eyes, and I'm still feeling the residual pangs, like the pain of it. We kind of look at each other, and I'm like, don't say anything. Fourth person, same thing. And then I notice the fifth guy in the line. Oh, there's a bus coming. The fifth guy in the line, he starts like nodding off. So my first thought is like, this guy's getting bored. Like, this is a guest here. He's getting really bored. You know what I mean? Sorry about that.
You got the neighborhood bus driving by or what?
Yeah. It's we're on Marshall Law here in Leona, New Jersey, so and that was a garbage truck. I'm sorry, man.
That's okay.
But anyway,
you're making it happen.
It's a metaphor for my life. But this guy, I asked him, I'm like, hey, are you all right? This guy's like nodding off, and then he just slumps to the ground and passes out. We have to get him in a wheelchair. We send him downstairs. So that's two people who freaked the hell out on the 5th floor. That goes by again. Hey, nobody's allowed on the 5th floor. People are freaking out there. Let's not go there. Of course, there's like 30 minutes left in the night. And I got some people coming up, and I could tell the look. Like, you know what I mean? It's like at a party where someone's like looking to score. Like, you know what I mean? Some stuff. And like, I could tell that they're like, hey, man. It's like the building, manager wasn't there. They're like, you think we can take us up to the 5th floor? I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go. Start going up there. Within minutes, I start feeling this like pain in my like left neck, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. It's like choke me, man. Like, you know what I mean? Not in like a sexual way, but just like, choke me. Like, just see what happens. I promise it's not in a sexual way. It's definitely not. Like, stop looking at me like that. But then the next person who's in the group with me starts freaking out. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And I literally see like all the color leave their face, and it's just red over here. Take them out, bring them downstairs. And then not even a week later, I think it was a week later, Ken Potter, who was in our group, again, I even hate bringing this up, but has a heart attack in that same building.
Oh, my.
And he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was probably the craziest paranormal experience that I'd ever encountered. Long story, but and I told it without emotion, but it was insane.
I bet. Brandon, how about yourself?
A case we did on Ghost Hunters, funny enough. We went to this location called the Glen House in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Beautiful town, right on the river. Anytime you think about a good ghost story, at least here in the States, it's always related to the Victorian era in some capacity, right? You always think about these beautiful Queen Anne Victorians, Gothic-type structures. There's all types of different architecture during that period, but this house in particular, the Glen House, not only had this very tragic history associated with it, but the man that built the house was very much into technology at the time. And this house was basically the equivalent of a smart house today. So you had these amazing, Edison wiring in the place, bell systems all over the building. And, the Historical Society and the people that maintain the current museum all claimed that this bell system in the building would periodically go off. And it would always be, connected to the same room, which was the children's room upstairs, even though the wire to this bell system had been cut, like completely severed, because it was going off so much. The woman that ran the building, Christy, was so terrified, she actually went and cut the wires because it was frightening her so much. And we actually looked at that wiring. It had actually been severed, so there was no, connectivity to that. But after we finished the case, we went in to do the reveal. And over the years, you had different docents and different tour guides that would quit because of the activity in the house. And we were setting up to film this reveal with Christy, myself, Grant, and Kristen and Daryl. We're all sitting in the living room area. And lo and behold, a tour starts to exit. And the woman that was leading the tour proceeded to go to Christy, who ran the building, and tell her that it was her last tour. She couldn't work there anymore because she was so frightened by the building. As soon as this tour guide walked through the threshold of the front door, that bell system started to go off. And at this point, it was only a story for us, right? We knew that the wires had been cut. We knew that they said they had a lot of experiences with it, even though there was no, electricity going to the bell system, that it would, periodically go off. But right then and there, as this tour guide says, I can't do this anymore, this is my last tour, walks through that door, that bell system starts to go off. And we have like 10, 15 people in the building at that point. I just think that it's just a classic story. I think not only that there's this amazing experience with this bell system that has no electricity running to it going off, but I think it's very funny and almost ironic in a way that this tour guide says, hey, I can't take this anymore, this is my last tour, and right then and there that bell system almost goes off as saying, I got you. So it was an amazing experience, and definitely one I'll never forget. And that's not the only instance that happened within the Glenn house. It's right next to Missouri State University. A lot of the people that are, affiliated with the university would go to the house and have, dinners or have meetings. A lot of them which are on the board for the house. They told us a story about random, coins just appearing in front of them, right next to the stairwell, in the living room, one of the parlors. And, Mustafa and I and Grant actually walked into the building. We found a coin laying on the ground, same threshold, same area where this woman walked through and the bell system, went off. We found this coin from 1898, I think, Mustafa, right? That was just sitting there at the threshold. And first thing we do, obviously, is go to the director of the museum and ask if they have any coin collections in the building. A lot of original artifacts from the family. First off, they have nothing like that in the collection. They've never seen anything like it. And it's crazy because this coin looks like it was not even in circulation. To take that even a step further, the Glenn family, was it David Glenn, right, Mustafa, the head of the household?
Yeah.
He was a banker, and that's where he made all of his money. And he was this, influential person in society there in Cape Girardeau. And it's just very strange that something like that would just show up out of nowhere, and we had absolutely no logical explanation for it. But, anytime that there's a good ghost story, it always seems to be connected to the Victorian era and the Victorian period. A lot of belief in death culture in that period of time, a lot of belief that death was only the beginning. And I think that's why a lot of ghost stories are tied to that. But that's definitely a case I'll never forget. And those, two specific incidences were very much something that will stick with me. That's for sure.
All right, Merle, we got 5 minutes for you.
5 minutes. Okay.
We know you can do it in 45 seconds.
All right. TikTok. This one actually happened this past year in a town where they had a red light district. This is an old mining town. And there are 3 brothels standing, and they've never been cracked open in decades. And the curator of the whole property, she opened up, you enter the brothel from the bottom, like, because they're kind of off the ground, on stilts almost. And we were doing an EVP session at nighttime, middle of the night. And I don't know, I just didn't want to be in there. I didn't want to show it, but I didn't want to be in there. I just felt uneasy. I was investigating 3 females in there, and I was the only male. And, oh man, I felt almost picked on. This is the first time I've been choked by a ghost before. I've been touched by a ghost before, but it's kind of funny now. I said, if there's any females in here, show me you're here. Whack on my ass. And I jumped pretty good with that. And I had my camera, and I turn around, and obviously there's nothing there. But then I go to the other side of the brothel, and it happened again. It happened twice in one night. And I like to be in control of my surroundings, and being slapped, touched, or choked, it's kind of what we look for in the research of contact. But when it happens to you, you're like, Jesus, this actually happened. Short story, but the curator sealed it up, and it's off limits till we go back next year, which I'm really, really excited about. because I'd like to spend a lot more time in there doing a lot more research. And yeah, that's my story. Actually, and another story involved a medium. This was in Barkerville, Richfield Courthouse. We had a medium with us on an investigation. And from the town side of Barkerville, you got to drive about 3 kilometers up a road to get to the actual old courthouse, 1800s courthouse. And he had wandered in the courthouse alone in the pitch black. So it's about 1:30 a.m. And I'm like, oh, where did so-and-so go? And I have my Sony camera. I'm only looking in my screen at the night vision. I don't have a flashlight with me. So I enter the courthouse, and he went over the area you're not supposed to go, where the judge used to be. It's all off limits, but he went in there. He did what he does. And he's playing a perfect game of solitaire in the pitch black. And I'm like, what the? He doesn't know. He's looking down. I creeped up. I guess he could probably see the little red on the IR light. But I'm just, what? Perfect game. Like, the cards were perfect. Like, it was in broad daylight. And then he looked up at me, and he's like, he pointed and goes, you, and yells, get the out. And then chased me out of there. Like, it was pure daylight. Tell you, I ran pretty quick, and he snapped out of it once he was out of the doors, like outside.
Wow.
That was nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
We've got 4 minutes to go here as we prepare for Halloween. And, we got a great show on Ghosts of the Great White North once again here with Merle, Brandon, and Mustafa. Final words from you, Brandon, in regards to Halloween night. And what do you do if you see a ghost out there? Tell the people what to do.
You bust out the trap in the proton pack and catch that sucker. That's what I would say now. But no, I mean, Halloween's always a great time. I mean, great time for friends and family. Go out, have a great time, live the spooky tradition, tell the ghost stories, get around a campfire if you can, and just have a great night. And, love your friends and family.
Absolutely. How about for you, Mustafa?
Steal your kids' candy. Just steal it. Eat it when they're sleeping, and then record their faces in the morning when you tell them. Replace their candy with a bunch of vegetables, and then record their reactions and send the videos to me so I can laugh at them. And then I'll put them on my YouTube channel and monetize your children's misery. So that's what you should do for Halloween, and help me to, have a good Halloween myself. If you're going to do a costume, don't do Wednesday Addams. It's played out. Let's get a good themed costume. Remix it. Do Piggy Azalea, Iggy Azalea, but make it Miss Piggy Azalea. Do zombie Jimi Hendrix. Only if you're ethnically appropriate to do so. Don't get yourself in any trouble this Halloween. Maybe do it's a great, do like the Griswold family. That's a great, come up with a cool costume that really speaks, think outside of the box. But seriously, record your kids' despair after you eat all their candy and replace them with hummus packs. That'd be nice.
Hummus packs.
And carrots.
Lots of carrot
I like
sticks.
hummus,
Lots of
my
carrot
name's
sticks.
Mustafa. Hey, carrots.
All right, Merle, your Halloween suggestions?
Have fun. If you're going to go on investigations, be respectful. Watch as many horror movies as you can. Carve a pumpkin or two. Send Mustafa your candy and videos. Replace their juice bottles with water bottles, half drank, so you don't know if it's safe or not. And go from there. That's what you should do. Have fun. Have a good holiday.
Well, gentlemen, it is always a pleasure to have you guys on the show and to have you on back. Anytime we get to talk spooks and ghosts and everything along those lines with Brandon Alvis, Mustafa Gatollari, and, of course, my main man, Merle, it's always a good time. It is always a good time. And one thing that I love about these guys is the fact that they are real. They're doing it for their best for all of you. And you know what? We really do appreciate everything that you do. Brandon, quickly, we got about 45 seconds. Tell everybody where they can find your book and when it's coming out.
Elements of a Haunting. You can find it on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. Go to the Llewellyn website. You can go to my personal site, BrandonJAlvis.com. It'll be out January 8th, 2022, and we're doing pre-orders now, and we're very excited. I think that it's going to do very well when it comes to changing the mindset of this field and pushing the field forward, stepping out of the shadow of pseudoscience.
Well, good job, guys, on that book. Honestly, it's probably a book that is very much needed and one that will be very eye-opening for everyone out there, and I absolutely love it. Merle, another great show on the Paranormal Road Trippers. You did well once again. You spoke more than your quota, which is very nice.
And I cut you off.
And you cut me off. Yeah, you cut me off.
I'm doing it again. I'm going to do it again. Buy their book. It's freaking phenomenal. They literally put a clinic on how to investigate.
Absolutely.
And they back it up with theories and stories. It's the one book you need.
And if you're a ghost team out there, don't be a bunch of jerks. Don't hoard locations. If you want to be a team player in this field, share the evidence, share the love. Fedora John coming up next with the unbiased UFO report. We'll be back. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Great show, gentlemen.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
That was fantastic. Wow.
That was a lot of fun.
You guys are great.
Yeah, that's what he says to all the hosts afterwards. Yeah,
No, I don't. Brandon will tell you. No, I don't. I am brutal, dude.
It can get brutal. It can get brutal.
I just want to have beers with you guys. I don't even drink, and I want to have beers with you guys.
Let's do it. Let's do it, man.
When are you guys coming up here? The border's going to open.
Hopefully soon, man.
Hopefully soon.
You know what?
We're vax, wax, and ready to party, dude.
The brothel's waiting.
Yeah.
Wait until the snow melts.
How realistically, how many months a year do you guys have where it doesn't suck weather-wise?
The Lower Mainland is like California a lot of the time.
Oh yeah, Vancouver's nice.
Vancouver's like Seattle, man. It's constantly fucking raining.
Not that bad.
You get like 100, like I think almost close to 200 days a year where it rains in Vancouver.
But those days they don't rain.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Up here where I live, it's very dry. Believe it or not.
Really?
It's very dry. Like we're right in between two deserts.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Did you know that there's deserts up here? Like actually?
Yeah. And
well, there's Okanagan.
And so we're higher elevation, so we get a lot of snow. Like we'll get snow for 5.5 months. But once that snow melts at the end of April, going into early May, it's phenomenal. Yeah. It's you get a lot of, like here it's weird because we're so high up on the mountains that literally if it's pissing rain, wait 20 minutes and then you'll have sunshine and warm sunshine. So it's kind of cool. It's
like a video game.
Yeah.
It's like Grand Theft Auto.
No, exactly. So
on times 4 speed.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you guys want to plan a trip up like where I am to go, we'll go to Barkerville and we'll do the crash site and all that kind of stuff, I would say end of May would be.
We definitely have some plans to come up there. We're figuring some stuff out with some shooting. And
yeah,
we definitely have some plans to come up there, 100%.
Yeah, the crash site I really want to do. Yeah, I mean,
let's do it.
That is Canada's largest unsolved mass murder.
Wow.
Yeah, like 52 people.
Fuck.
Remember, Mustafa, I sent you those photos of the crash site.
Yeah, man. Yeah, bro. Oh my gosh.
All right.
There's a lot of great stuff up there.
Yeah, there is. It's a lot of virgin paranormal territory that is incredible. I mean, I don't like the hot spots. If I went to Vancouver, the restaurants and everything. I like finding the small towns. Like Merle and I always talk about this, finding those small towns and finding out what their local weird story is, and then going for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like.
Absolutely.
Gents, I got to run. I got to get my UFO guy in here. Great show. Fantastic
awesome.
show.
Thanks, guys.
Merle, I'll call you tomorrow, buddy.
Sounds good. It's a good show.
All right. Take care,
Thanks, guys.
guys.
Great
Thank
show,
you so
gentlemen.
much.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Merle. Look at Merle, everybody. Merle it up one final time.
One more.
One more time. Merle it up.
That's the signal.
Yep. You got to merle it up, people. Merle it up. Merle it up. There we go. There's one.
All right, good. Now I can hear you.
Hey, Fedora John.
How you doing, buddy? What's up, Merle?
How you doing?
Pretty good. Yourself? Good show tonight,
Pretty
buddy.
good. Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that was fun. Look at all the Merles here, buddy. Don't forget,
All
you can
the
get your
Merle.
Merle swag in our store. T-shirts, hats, stickers. Get a Merle sticker for your car.
There's Merle stickers now, eh?
Oh, yeah. We got everything, man. We got it. Look at this one. Holy cow. That one's... Oh, hold on. Where'd it go? There it is.
Ooh, that's a strong
Dave,
Merle.
you're going to take this nice, like rarely humble paranormal researcher, right? And
Yeah.
turn him into an egomaniac like everyone else.
True.
You got to cut it out.
Look into the
I'll cut
Merles.
it out. Look at all these
Look at the
Merles.
Merles.
I'm going to start talking in first person,
Yeah.
like The Rock.
Yeah.
From now on.
Hey, bud.
Every show, I'm going to go, finally, Merle has come back to Spaced Out Radio.
Yeah, absolutely. Put that on TikTok.
Yeah.
All right. Merle, I'll call you in the morning, okay?
Sounds good. Have a good show, guys.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks, man.
How you doing, Fedora John?
Good. For some reason, my second message went through. I'm not gonna do the valet thing today because there's too many moving parts, and,
That's okay.
and I need to do a little more research. So.
All right. I may need you to do a little bit more talking for me tonight, okay? Hold on.
Oh yeah, dude, it's all good.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Of course, check out for swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Let's bring in the fedora-wearing John Hudson for another beautiful edition of the UAP Report. Yes, John Hudson is back for another edition of the Unbiased UFO Report. And, John, a lot of interesting things happening. I don't know if you caught earlier on today where on the Theories of Everything, Lou Elizondo gave his longest Ask Me Anything.
Yes, I know. I still need to get caught up on that. There were so many other things going on. I didn't even have a chance to catch it live, so it should be interesting.
Great show. I recommend anybody go watch Kurt Jaimungal, and he does a great job with Lou. And you know what? It's very good. Very good programming. Very interesting programs. I think Lou's starting to loosen up a little bit. You know, he's starting to loosen up, which is nice because we need that. But his old teammate, little Tommy DeLong, is back in the news. Did another UFO interview again. You know, I'm honestly, I'm getting surprised that he's speaking UFOs so much again lately. Something must be up.
Well, in this case, he didn't really have a choice in the matter. He was being interviewed by this gentleman named Ted Stryker, who they seem to have known each other for some time. They seem to have some kind of a back-end friendship. And the impression I got is that Ted Stryker was a disc jockey. It was a DJ at some point when Tom was recording Blink 182, and so I think that's how they know each other. And so the whole interview was actually about music. It was all about Angels and Airwaves. But pretty short into the interview, immediately, Ted Stryker starts asking him, what about the UFOs, right? And of course, Tom can't turn down that opportunity. And so basically, Tom and him talked about it for about 8 minutes, 8 minutes and change. And so what I did, because I figured out most of the pushing of this interview would be based on the music, I basically trimmed out those 8 minutes and posted them up on Twitter as 4 2-minute clips. Made sure to give Ted Stryker a lot of credit because he did a good interview, and so there'll be a link to that so you guys can all check it out. But the reason why it's worth mentioning is because first off, Tom was Tom was the new version of Tom. He played it. It was a very clean dialogue that he played. He didn't, he caveated a lot of stuff. He played down things, saying, hey, we don't know this and we don't know that, and so forth. And so that was all good. But what he specifically talked about was the Army Creta, and which is something we're all very curious about. And most of what he talked about is stuff that anyone who's been studying this carefully is already aware of. That this is 80 something layers. The material being studied is something like 80 something layers of different material that, that it's still in study, that there is a current hypothesis that it has something to do with frequency. My best evidence on that is Hal Puthoff indicating that he believes that it might be a waveguide for terahertz frequencies. Waveguide is just basically something that will direct the waves to another place and divert it in a slightly different direction. But the one part that came out that I wasn't aware of was that he talked about the fact that there is a chain of authority on the material. However, it does not go back to its original founding. It only goes back a couple hops. And so there is a large gap in its chain of authority. But even with that said, they have every reason to believe that this material was recovered in New Mexico in the 40s. However, it is, at least what Tom DeLonge said was that he does not believe it was from Roswell. Anything is possible, but that's not his understanding. He does not believe it's from Roswell. And so it was good to hear that, that Tom's still very invested in the Creta, that he's still, the current version of TTSA is still actively working with the Army on the Creta, and that they're still making progress. So I thought that was good news.
Well, I mean, he's got to save face of this somehow. That's a big blow when you lose 2/3 of your dream team. It's a big blow.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is that I don't know. I'm going to be really interested to see how this whole thing gets written out in 10 years because I don't know. I think that Steve Justice leaving, that was an unfortunate result of the financing. But part of me is getting this sinking suspicion that Luis Elizondo and Christopher Mellon leaving might not have come at the exact time it was originally expected, but might have actually been planned. We'll see. Because what I'm starting to realize is that a lot of what Elizondo and Mellon have been doing since they left, they couldn't have done with TTSA. It wouldn't have worked. There's no way it would have worked. And maybe there was a hope that someone else would take it on, but I'll be curious to see how that happens. But I mean, let's face it, all Tom ever really cared about was the entertainment business, because that's all he knows, And so, and they did talk about his movie, which is basically right now, it's in the can, it's done, and they're basically just negotiating with distributors for a theatrical release. So right now they're looking at probably early 2022.
That's going to be interesting to see. Now, in Washington, D.C., there was some very big news where Robert Salas, the man behind the story of UFOs and nuclear missile silos, really got down to business with a press conference.
Yes. And not only did it go very, very well, I haven't checked myself, but my understanding is that it's all online and that anyone can watch it. And if you find it and you have a chance to sit down and watch it, I highly recommend it. The little clips that I've seen have been quite impressive. And what I loved was that essentially the gentleman's name is what was it again? He's a writer for military.com. But basically, Travis Tritton basically wrote for military.com, and he's the one that wrote this article that I mainly used for this report on what happened. And he wrote a really good article, and it was well presented. It covered a lot of good information and specifically focused on 3 individual stories. In light of time, I can't go over all of them. They'll all be in the notes. You guys can read them. But there is one I would like to just cover briefly, and that is that of a gentleman named Robert Jacobs. And Robert Jacobs was a first lieutenant in the Air Force, had been stationed at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California in 1964. And in 1964, while at Vandenberg, he was asked to set up a telescope camera to essentially film a Atlas rocket test. And when he started filming, what he claims is that a disc-shaped craft flew up to the rocket. And I've heard this story before, but I've never heard it directly from him, and I'm sure you've heard it as well, Dave. This is a pretty famous story. Flew up to the rocket and circled the rocket, and then began firing a beam of light, several different beams of light at the rocket, even getting above it and shooting the beam of light right into the dummy warhead of the rocket, and then basically it took off out of frame. And as soon as it was all said and done, he was basically told 2 men came up in suits and basically asked for the film, and he was warned to never speak of it again, and he didn't for a very, very long time. And that's boy, man, that's one hell of a story.
No kidding. No kidding. Now, Robert Salas, this is one of those stories, my friend, that has literally been out for decades. And the one thing that has, kind of irked me a little bit regarding this whole uproar, UFOs and nuclear weapons, is that how blind everybody is acting towards it. Like, oh, it's new? This was happening? Like, we've known for 40 years. Robert Salas has been, and good on him for never giving up on this topic. But
true, Dave.
But you know what? I feel bad for him because for years he was hounded as a conspiracy theorist. He was hounded as somebody who obviously lost it, and that's why they aren't in the military anymore. And he went through the entire rigmarole of being defaced and dehumanized over this topic. And now here we are. And, it all started a couple of years ago with the Unidentified television show by the TTSA, where all of a sudden they were acting like, oh my gosh, we had nukes over nuclear weapons silos? And everybody's acting like it's brand new.
I know, and the thing is that what this says to me is that there was a subconscious intentional dissonance of a way that I think a lot of people who may have heard this story before, they just ignored it because of the level of fear that it brings. I mean, these are not easy stories to hear. I mean, Salas's own story, basically he saw 10 nuclear silos go out at once. Like, these are silos that aren't even interconnected, right? They're not supposed to have any relationship to each other whatsoever. So there's really there shouldn't actually technically be a way to shut all 10 of them down at the same time, right? Because of the way they're wired. And essentially these 10, essentially if the president had ordered a launch at that point, they would have had to say, sorry, we can't, right? And that's, to me, and then I also think it really speaks to, well, I credit Robert Salas and everyone else involved who were involved in that last press event back in bugger, I don't remember what year it was, but it was a while ago now. It really shows how few people heard it. Yeah. And how few people were exposed to it. How dampening the suppression of this information really is, how drastic the media's lack of interest in it really is, that a story this powerful and this serious, and what actually justifies, for one, like the only thing in my mind that justifies the fear talk, right? The only thing, everything else is like, but this is the one thing that justifies it, right? And they didn't talk about, like, no one talks about it.
Well, if I recall, one of the stories that was told was that these UFOs actually hit the launch buttons on these missiles at the exact same time as they hit another pack of UFOs hit the launch buttons in Russia, and they had to get on the phone with each other and say, "This isn't us."
Well, no, I need to look into this. I've been meaning to do so, because my understanding of it was that it was even worse than that. It was they shut down ours and launched theirs. That basically there might have been another time where ours were triggered as well, but my understanding was at the time that the Russians were triggered, that ours were shut down. So it was like they were intending for us to get decimated, right? But you're dead on. Essentially, there had to be communication between the two countries to essentially avert a serious launch, because how do you handle that? How do you handle it when the military of an adversarial country calls and says, "We are in a launch countdown. We didn't trigger it, and at the moment we can't stop it. And if it goes off, our bad. We're sorry." Right? I mean, what do you do with that? Right? I mean, it was a horrible situation.
No, very, very much so. And I just don't like how it got downplayed. And Robert Salas got downplayed even through the last few years. I mean, all of these young UFO researchers now are like, wow, this Robert Salas guy had it going on. Like, he was there, and he didn't have a lot of people having his back on that. So it really is good to see. John, I'm going to keep you around here a little bit because, honestly, my voice is going on me.
It's all good.
So I do apologize.
No, it's all good, man.
Well, I'm going to apologize publicly to Shirky Poo because she prepares a great newscast each and every night. And I know if I get reading on my own for a few minutes, I'm going to lose my voice here.
Yep. No worries.
Yeah, because I can feel it starting to slide away. But regarding this, what came out of this? What came out of this whole Robert Salas press conference?
So I would argue that as of yet, nothing. However, you do have people like Christopher Mellon putting out some social media tweets specifically referencing the event, referencing the honorable and the courageous actions of these individuals. You had military.com writing about them, right? Which is that's a widely read more baseline periodical, and so that's a good place for them to be writing about it. And I do think that it's very helpful now that and Robert Salas even talks about it in an interview he did, where he talks about the fact that he basically he credits the Nimitz event with why people are now starting to take him more seriously. And he says, look, it's because Congress is now actually taking action on what they're seeing in the skies that now people are coming back and going, oh, wait, maybe those Air Force guys weren't all that nutty, and so it's basically helping his credibility. And so he seems pretty confident that at this point, essentially what it comes down to is we need their testimony logged into the record, right? At this point, they've been testifying on the side and no one's been logging what they've done. And we need their testimony formally entered into the record and formally reviewed by Congress. And I don't know how fast that will happen, but it needs to happen.
All right, finally here, as we got a couple minutes left, Lou Elizondo questioning whether or not he may have fibbed on the money for ATIP.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to caution everyone that if you have strong feelings about what I'm about to talk about, and some people do, this may come off as me playing down something that you consider serious. Okay. But I just have to be honest that because of the work I've done with the government, I don't feel that way. But essentially what it comes down to is that there's all this confusion about ATIP and OSAP, right? And so this is one of the reasons why I've started declaring a primitive along with each of them, in that I refer to OSAP as DIA OSAP. And then within DIA OSAP, there was DIA OSAP TTSA. ATIP. And then essentially when OSAP, ran out of money, ATIP was essentially moved over into OUDSI, and so that became OUDSI ATIP. And so to me, I have to declare this because there's so much confusion going on as to where things fit and so forth. But what it really comes down to is that what this means is that ATIP OUDSI never actually got any money, ever, right? Basically, that $22 million went to DIA OSAP. They got the money. And from what people can see in the record books, because a lot of this stuff is documented because it wasn't a secret program, all that money was spent, right? They actually spent all that money. They actually bought some very high-end gear. And so that money was spent. So then the question becomes, well, then what was ATIP under OUDSI? Was it just was it just like, Lou Elizondo went to his boss and said, hey, I have this passion project I really care about, but don't worry, it won't take any time from my normal job. Do you mind if I take it on? And they're like, yeah, do whatever you want in your free time, sir. Was it just this kind of like, really, just weird, like, because let me say that I've been in companies where I did about 40% of my job so that I could then do the 60% of the job that I cared about, right? And that 40% of my job was what I was actually measured on, right? And what my manager thought was important, right? But the 60% of what I did, that's what I cared about, and that's what I felt was important for the company, right? And I've been in that situation. I can't tell you how many times. And so, I don't think it means that it was just a meaningless project that didn't have any weight to it. But I think the big problem here is that when you are in an organization like the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense Intelligence, I shouldn't say money's never a problem, but money is rarely a problem. It all comes down to how important something is and how many eyes it has on it. And they have multiple funding vehicles available to them that, some might consider to be kind of slushy money, and a lot of these groups have gotten in trouble for it. I mean, not Department of Energy, but the NRO got in trouble for this several years ago. They had a little kitty of like $6 billion that they'd saved up on their own. They weren't telling anyone about, and they were using that they use it to build a new headquarters. And so this stuff happens. And technically, is it illegal? I don't know what the funny money part of it is. But what I'm getting to is that I think that the way ATIP in OUDSI got funded is very normal. It's very common. It's very practical. It was basically funneled by, non-appropriated money. And essentially because of that, no one can talk about it because you don't want to draw any spotlight on how, pet projects within OUDSI get funded. And so Lou can't explain why it got funded. Lou can't explain how he funded that project when he didn't get any of that $22 million. But because of that, a lot of people are saying, well, wait a second, if OSAP got the money and you didn't get the money, are you lying about it?
Well, I mean,
so his credibility gets thrown into play by some people, but in my opinion, it's not terribly a big issue.
John, thank you for helping me out tonight with a extra long, unbiased UFO report. Really do appreciate it. I want to say a big thank you to Merle and to Mustafa Gatollari and Brandon Alvis for coming on for Ghosts of the Great White North. An absolute pleasure to have each and every one. Shirky Poo, I promise you I'll get back to the news tomorrow, if my throat allows me. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to Take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.